There you go. Yeah, we have an 11-year-old stepson
That was pretty tough.
who I took to Sam's the other day. That was a bad decision.
Yes. That's the best one.
Yes. Do we have copies? Hang on a second. No, let me get this going and all.
This is mine.
I need to go in there and get some. Hang on just a minute.
Push it right.
Who's sitting next to me? I don't even know whose name that is over there.
Craig.
Who?
Craig.
Craig? Okay.
He's here.
Sorry. Ma'am? Okay. Oh, there's a whatcha-jiggy over here. Oh. I mean, not that I want it right here, but.
It's a hot spot.
It's a hot spot. Well, John got on here, so I still need to get you a packet.
Hey, Diane, can you hear me?
He was still well on it.
Does anyone just an agenda? I don't think.
I have to have it at this time.
Yeah, can you put down Jerry Lynn's paper? There you go. You requested paper, you get a file this time, so have a tree.
I only keep it on my phone, but I do like having them.
I think everybody has some.
Yeah.
Packets?
I'm glad it worked out though, man. That's good. It took a while to find a place.
Myself?
Lance Johnson. Were you still in Jonesboro? Or in that store?
I don't know if anybody else needs a packet. Okay.
Because last time we had. Wow. Yeah, well, I thought about you.
Oh no, I left him too, and he was like, not good. Yeah. Having dinner? No, I mean, like at his house. He'll roll in about a minute till 6. He picked up his packet. It is a hotspot. Oh, that I know. I don't know where I got those. Oh, okay.
Scale it back. Scale it back. Gotta pay for that.
Yeah. Hopefully sometime in January. They still had some final stuff on the building they had to take care of, so. I actually started packing some of my stuff. I was like, oh, let me shove this stuff in a box. I have a problem with books. I have a lot of books that I've acquired
Turns out
over
tonight.
20 years.
Essence is always gonna do soon.
If you haven't already done so, make sure that you sign in for us, please, before we
Yeah, I ran home after work, getting my wife
I told mine to go do something. They didn't just go shopping. I was hoping to shop for them, but they just got.
That's what happened.
Well, you'll have to
You're turning it off over there, Laurie. It should. I did just double check it, but it's on. I know she's so quiet. And then there's me that's just loud.
Almost, sir.
Are you there, John?
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Diane?
All right, I gotta figure out how to hear you.
You have your...
Let me see. Yeah, my volume's all the way up. I think it's the only one I got, but I don't. Right here? Thank you. Okay, now maybe try.
Can you hear me? Is that better? No, still nothing.
There you are. Woo! Thank you. Craig was like,
Okay.
"What's up, speaker?" I was like, I don't know. So, all right. So you are there and available.
Yes, ma'am. I'll be on mute until needed.
Okay, thanks, Sean.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started this evening with the Centerton Board of Zoning Adjustments for December 21st, 2021 with a roll call.
Ben Lewis. Here. Tony Davis. John Sessoms is with us via Zoom. Craig Langford. Here. Jerry Harris. Here. Amber Beal.
Here.
Devin Murphy is absent. Joey Engel. Here. And Jeff Syfar.
Jeff's here as well. I'll make an announcement before we get too far. At some point this evening, there's going to be some fireworks outside, so don't freak out. It's between 6:15, 6:30-ish maybe. And so just wanted to let everybody know before they start hearing a bunch of noise outside that it's okay. The fire guy told me so, consider that's a good source. First thing on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from 12/7 of 2021.
Mr. Jerry, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Old business and new business, we have two public hearings. The first public hearing is variance 2105, the Rose Centerton Strip Center, East Centerton Boulevard and Cedar Street. Parking requirement reduction from 66 to 56. Reminder, it is C2, 2.16 acres. Is the applicant here to give us an overview? If you address the planning commission this evening, just let us know your name, and if it's for a company or if you happen to be speaking on one of the public hearings, just let us know your address for the record, please.
Sure, I'm Jacob Shy. I'm with CDI Engineering. It's 3108 Southwest Regency Parkway in Bentonville. And I'm filling in for John Easterling tonight.
What are you guys requesting?
So we are requesting a reduction in the parking requirement based on a few things. This is going to be phase one of a two-phase site. It has a large drainage structure that is dumping water just about the middle of the property. We also have a couple of interesting things on this. We have a drive-through restaurant that is not allowing patrons to enter the building. It's drive-through only. And we also have enough spaces that we can stack on the west side. That'll be a drop-off area for animals. And we believe that this reduction should not cause anyone to not be able to park in here. The reason I brought up the drainage structures is that we could expand the site to the east. However, the drainage structures still have to be conveyed through the site. For us to complete this phase one, we would like to allow that water to continue to drain into those
Diane,
Yes, this project, once I get my stat correct, is for Rose Centerton Strip Center, which they do also have a concurrent development plan for this evening also. They are requesting for 56 parking spaces instead of the 66 that are required in the C2 zoning. That is one stall for 200 feet of retail and or restaurant space. They are providing the appropriate number of handicap spaces. Because this is part of the zoning code, they do have to apply for a variance for the reduction in parking requirements. And we do have more information under the findings of fact. I don't know if you want to get to those currently or wait until after the public hearing.
We'll do it.
Okay.
Are there any questions from any of the commissioners before we'll go through the details here? Public comments? If not, I've entertained motion to open the public hearing for the variance 2105 of Rose Centerton Strip Center.
Mr. Member, I'll make a motion to open the
Tony, a second.
Motion and a second, is anyone opposed? We are open to the public. If there's anyone who wishes to speak or have any questions in regards to this variance request, we ask that you come forward. You give your name and then any questions or concerns you might have. Second call. And the third and final call for anyone who wishes to speak in regards to the variance 2105.
Make a motion to close the public hearing. Second.
All right, motion to close the public hearing in a second. Is anyone opposed? Diane, let's go ahead and go through the.
Yes, as far as the following the public hearing, you are asked to evaluate each variance request upon its own merits. And there are traditionally 4 of the 5 elements need to be satisfied whether a requested variance is granted or denied. The first one is, let me pull those up so you can look at them on the screen. The preservation of intent. There we go. And the applicant's response as far as the preservation of intent is that it is, of course, the preservation of intent is if it is consistent with the purpose and intent of the regulations for the district in which the development is located. No variance shall have the effect of permitting a use in a district that is not a stated permitted use, accessory use, or conditional use. The applicant's response was the proposed development is in harmony with the C2 highway commercial zoning districts within the city of Centerton, and the uses are allowed in the C2 zoning. Our staff finding is the proposed variance does not grant a use that is inconsistent with the highway to commercial zoning, because they are doing, a strip shopping center and a restaurant which are allowed. Any exceptional circumstances, which would be anything extraordinary or unusual conditions or circumstances applying to the lot, parcel, structure, or intended use, exist that do not apply to other properties or uses in the same district, which are unique to the individual property under consideration. And the applicant's response was extraordinary drainage conditions exist on this property due to highway drainage that bisects the property north and south. The structures provided on site are unique and incorporate drive-through and drop-off spaces for their customers to conduct their business without getting out of their cars. The staff finding is the amount of drainage required around the property may be considered an exceptional circumstance related specifically to this property. And pardon me for being all tongue-tied tonight. Hardship, of course, is not grounds for variance. That the special condition and/or circumstances do not result from the intended or proposed actions of the applicant. No variance may be granted solely on the basis of economic gain or loss. The application's response is due to the nature of the off-site drainage bisecting the property and the building designs for drop-off and stacking. The stacking spaces and drop-off spaces provide space for cars, dropping of or stacking. Staff findings, we did say that the development does not use the entire lot and could potentially add space for additional parking. But of course there is still that drainage off there to the right. Preservation of property rights. That literal interpretation of the provisions of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of substantial rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance. The applicant's response is the stacking space provided allows for the parking to exceed the amount of parking required by code. The nature of the drop-off vet clinic and the drive-through restaurant allows people to conduct their business by parking and stacking to drop off or stacking to obtain their food. So in other words, they wouldn't be parking. The literal interpretation of the ordinance does not deprive the applicant of rights enjoyed by other properties. Those were the staff findings. Absence of detriment, that granting the variance requested will not create substantial detriment to the adjacent property, or that will materially impair or be contrary to the purpose and spirit of this chapter or the public interest. The applicant's response, the granting of this parking variance will not be detrimental or impact traffic or neighboring properties since this is the only applies to this property. Sorry, I have a tickle, it's driving me nuts. The adjacent properties are built out with a strip shopping center and a medical clinic and associated parking. Therefore, the effect of reducing the parking on this property would be minimal, and shouldn't cause any effects to adjoining properties. Dadgummit. Stupid sign is drainage. And in the event the requested variance be granted, the BZA needs to state any conditions of approval to be conferred by BZA before the motion. And then we do have a suggested motion based on the conclusions for each of our findings. I move to grant or deny the request by CEI Engineering to the reduction of the required off-street parking from 66 spaces to 56 in C2 Highway Commercial Zone for Highway 102, PID 06-03-788-002.
Thank you, Diane.
Very much.
Thank you.
I'll let you take a break. We have a lot more tonight too.
I know.
Any comments or questions, concerns from any of the commissioners before we go through the facts and findings on our own?
The parking spaces required include the restaurant that's listed at 957 square feet. Would that be
Yes.
included in the requirement? Okay.
But if I counted, there's 16, we're counting 16 drive-throughs, we're not counting that right?
Yes, I believe it was 8 for the drivers.
Yeah, so 16 total that are allowed. The only thing, of course, today, they're assuming that those businesses would always be a drop-off type of environment, so. But then think about that as well, but there are 16 potential spots in regards to that. So let's go through the findings. The findings and fact elements are to be used to clearly establish the basis for granting or denying. The first one, preservation of intent, that the variance if granted is consistent with the purpose and intent of the regulations for the district in which the development is located. No variance shall have the effect of permitting a use in any district that is not a state of permitted use, accessory use, or conditional use of that particular district. And I believe that the intent is still there. Does anybody disagree with that? Exceptional circumstances, that exceptional, extraordinary, or unusual conditions or circumstances applying to the lot, parcel, structure, or intended use exist that do not apply to other properties or uses in the same district, which are unique to the individual property under consideration. There is a lot of water on here. Other locations throughout that area have also dealt with a lot of water. I think in most cases making it better downstream for sure. Is that extraordinary?
I'm
Is
just
it
saying,
exceptional?
I'm gonna say the fact that there's a restaurant with the interior Cedar would be a better circumstance for that.
Okay.
And perhaps maybe even a drop off clinic, but that could change use. The 157 square foot building likely is never gonna have an interior
Right.
Cedar.
So is everybody okay with this one on the exceptional circumstance? Diane, you'll have to let me know if John raises his hand.
Oh, okay.
Hardship, not grounds for variance if the special conditions and or circumstances do not result from the intended or proposed actions of the applicant. No variance may be granted solely on the basis of economic gain or loss. And again, I think we're dealing with, they're not asking for anything that's crazy. Again, I think the proposal with the 2 drop-offs certainly adds to it in a good way. Does everybody agree with that, or any questions, comments on that?
No, the only thing I can for C, when we start talking about the development, one is the access to the phase 2, which would likely be through the dumpster area in the southeast corner of the parking lot. And if they're relocating the dumpster, that could take another potential spot. So that might be something we need to work through. Along with some other things I'm sure we'll talk about.
Everybody's okay with this one? Preservation of property rights, that the real interpretation of the provisions of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of substantial rights commonly enjoyed by the properties in the same district in terms of this ordinance. And again, the applicant's response is talking about the spacing, and the drop off. And again, I don't think it deprives anybody of their rights as the property owner. Does anybody disagree with that? Comments? Absence of detriment, that granting the variance requested will not create substantial detriment to adjacent property owner property, or that will materially impair or be contrary to the purpose and spirit of this chapter of this public interest. And again, the intent is still to develop a commercial property. So I think there's no absence of detriment there. Does anybody disagree with that? Any comments? Okay. Any other discussion, questions, comments before we call for a vote? There are none, then I will entertain a motion for the variance 2105 that goes Centerton Street.
Make a motion to grant the request by CDI Engineering for the reduction in required off-street parking from 66 spaces to 56 for the C2 highway commercial zone.
Do you want to use the suggested?
If approved, the approval should be subject to all other code requirements and any other stating conditions.
Second.
We have a motion, and we have a second. Todd, you will roll call.
Jerry Harris.
Yes.
Amber Beal.
Yes.
Tony Davis.
Yes.
Joey Engel.
Yes.
Craig Langford.
Yes.
Ben Lewis.
Yes.
Jeff Stafford.
Yes.
What about
Oh, John Sessoms.
Yes. You can hear me.
John? All right. Thanks, Jacob. Good luck. Next on the agenda this evening is the public hearing for variance 2104, Willow Crossing Townhomes, Lot 2B, it's the northwest corner of Marigold and Cedar Street. Lot depth and building setback reduction, and increase in building coverage. It is RTH in F12, just over 5.07 acres, 35 lots.
Thank you, Jason Apple with ESI. We discussed this back in October, with regard to a waiver of the detention pond being on its own lot. And what we've brought back to you tonight is a revision to that request for the large scale or preliminary plat. We've included the detention pond on its own lot, which created some of these setback variance requests. So we have put the detention pond in kind of a horseshoe shape around the site, and the setback variances are from that detention pond lot and not from the right of way. So I think it could be considered a different type of request. It's not a right of way variance request. I mean, we still have the setback requirement from the right of way. But there are a few of these variances and requests here tonight, so I'll just transfer the motion.
Thank you. Diane, do you want to give us an opening?
Yes, I hope my sinuses will cooperate with me. Sorry about the coughing fit earlier, you guys. Hello, let me bring it back up for you. There we go. This project, they did just have a rezone at the last planning commission meeting from RTH MF12 to R4 multifamily. In doing so, the underlying zoning for this particular property is no longer the zoning for this parcel. So doing the report was kind of interesting to figure out how to do it when it's now no longer that zoning. The difference is, of course, with an R4 multifamily, it'd be one property and not individual lots. And building setbacks for the R4 multifamily would just be 25 feet from the street sides, and building setbacks 25 feet from the rear, and the building coverage is 50% and not the 40% that's in the MF12, which is one of the items that they have asked for a variance from. So, like I said, they are requesting a 13-foot reduction in the lot depth. Again, this is from RTH MF12, which it is no longer, from 100 feet to 87 feet. And also up to a 15-foot reduction in the side and rear building setbacks from 25 feet to a minimum of 10 feet. And that would be, per individual lot, which is how it's platted at the moment in their development, which is concurrent and also proposed for this evening also. And then they also are requesting to increase the building coverage on lots 17 and 20 from the RTH multifamily 12 of 40% to 47%, which, with the new R4 multifamily, they can go up to 50%. Let me see if there's any other ones I'm missing. I think those are the items that they are requesting, and of course you guys would have to look at each of those with the finding of fact for each of the individual variance requests.
At this time, we'll go ahead and open up to the public if we're, so I can entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open public hearing for variance 21-04.
Second. Motion and second, is anyone opposed? All right, we're now open to the public. If anyone wishes to speak in regards to the variance request 2104 for Willow Crossing Townhomes, it's lot 2D, we'd ask that you come to the podium. Second call for anyone who wishes to speak in regards to variance 2104. And the third final call.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Stoney, a second.
Motion and second to close the public hearing. Is anyone opposed? All right. Let's go ahead and go through I'll do the findings for you.
Thank you. Hope I won't have a choking fit again.
The overall request is a 13-foot reduction in the lot depth from 100 feet to 87 feet. On the findings of fact, on the first one, the preservation of intent, again, that the variance, if granted, is consistent with the purpose and intent of the regulations for the district in which the development is located. No variance shall have the effect of permitting the use in any district that is not a stated permitted use, accessory use, or conditional use of that particular district. The applicant's response: this waiver is requesting the development be allowed to construct the proposed buildings on their proposed lots. For city requirements, the lot depth for the RTH MF12 townhomes is a minimum of 100 feet for the City of Centerton Code 10-04-01 Part C. Further stipulation has been placed on this property and placed on this by the necessity for the pond to be on the pond by itself for the City of Centerton's stormwater management and drain manual, which is section 5.3. The encroachment of the pond's lot line onto the southern townhomes backyard has made the lot depth of the southern townhomes range from 87 to 99 feet. The development would like to adhere to the City of Centerton's stormwater management and drainage maintenance section 5.3 code, but to do so must receive a waiver that would permit development to build an RTH MF12 townhome on a lot with a depth of 87 feet. while still adhering to the zoning regulations set forth in the Centerton zoning regulations, chapter 14.04, section H for this type of development. The staff findings, the proposed variance does not grant the non-conforming use, however, the allowance of smaller lots is not consistent with the intent of the RTH 12 zoning district to maintain consistent lot sizes. Thoughts of the commissioners on this one? I would say the intent is still to build townhomes. But of course, the intent of the wider and the longer is of course the space because of the size of the buildings and some other things. If I remember our discussions, we were going to do that.
I think I have a question, probably I have to refer to John. Are you okay with the detention ponds abutting the building structure? For the volume ponds they're proposing? Showing on the drawing, the building structure abutting the volume there.
They're adjacent.
It looks like it's right up to the toe. Building right to top slope. That's the way I interpret it.
We don't have any grades, so
I'm
we
trying to-
really.
I was trying to determine that also.
I bet
The
Jason can tell us.
requirement.
But there's other requirements to make sure that the finished
Yeah, that
building
information
size
is in there.
horizontally away from-
Development.
Yeah,
Scroll
this
to
was
it.
an exhibit from the variance requested. There is additional information that I don't plan on drawing. I believe that from the line that we're referencing is the north-south pond. So big top of the pond. And those distances range from 12 to 13 feet. Pretty close to the lot line. The water's there, yes.
The 100-year is-
Basically the lot line.
It's like right in here.
So that's
So based on that information, everyone's okay with this one as far as reservation? Exceptional circumstances, that exceptional, extraordinary, or unusual conditions or circumstances applying to the lots, parcel, the structure or intended use exist that do not apply to other properties or uses in the same district which are unique to the individual property under consideration. The applicant prepared one response for everything, I believe, so the response remains as it was before. The staff findings, the inclusion of detention lots within the separate lot is standard design requirement and is not unique, extraordinary, or unusual circumstance to this lot. I didn't see anything that made this an exceptional circumstance. It's been a pretty standard Centerton for a while. Does anybody have any comments or questions or anything in regards to that?
It just seems the density is a little too high.
Don't know why. The hardship not grounds for variance, that the special conditions and or circumstances do not result from the intended or proposed action of the applicant. No variance may be granted solely on the basis of the economic gain or loss. Same response from the applicant that was on the first one. The staff finding no hardship has been presented. I have a tendency to agree that there's not a hardship that's been presented in regards to the lots. And that the same code we're allowing in regards to the detention lot. Does anybody disagree with that or any other comments?
Can I make a comment on behalf of the developer?
Absolutely. And what was your name?
My name is Isabella Lane. I work for Fenwick Properties, and we're the developer on this project. I just want to say that we do have 100 acres of water that's draining onto this property, and so though it hasn't been stated here as a hardship, I would like y'all to consider that we have having to create a bigger drainage lot, or a bigger detention pond because of that 100 acres of drainage that's going onto the lot, which forces us to have small pipes.
Based on that, does anyone change their?
That's a design issue.
The fourth one, the preservation of property rights, equitable interpretation of the provisions of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of substantial rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance. Again, the response is the same as it was for the first one. Staff findings, little interpretation of this ordinance does not deprive the applicant of substantial rights enjoyed by other properties in the same district. The remaining parcel is fully developable because the detention pond is a result of the applicant's actions. It is possible that alternative layouts could result in a design without an encroachment. Does anybody disagree with that staff finding, or have any comments or questions? Absence of detriment, that granting the variance requested will not create substantial detriment to the adjacent property or that will materially impair or be contrary to the purpose and spirit of this chapter or the public interest. And the applicant's response was the same as before. The staff findings allowing a reduction of the lot depth will place units closer together and reduces the green space between units. Because of the high amount of water that drains into this area, there are concerns about increased impervious area. Thoughts on this one?
There's their comments.
Any other comments or questions from any of the commissioners?
And also just a reminder on this, with it being rezoned to R4 multifamily, if it were changed to the development and not a subdivision, most of these variances wouldn't be required.
If I may, I just had one more comment
Yes.
to make on that. So, we have mentioned this before at previous meetings, but we did decide to go, with the changing to R4 MF on, because of the variances that we're gonna have to request here. I did wanna say that this property, we're not asking for anything different than what our neighbors have had. And I know things have changed in the past 5 years, but I just wanna say that it is consistent with what our neighbors have gotten in the past. And then the other thing is that, us coming forward to you all with these variances was something that was suggested by Joe Neal, so that is why we came forward with these. And I know that you don't speak for everyone else, but I want to say that is what encouraged us basically to come forward with these variances.
Correct. I think if we'll go back and check the minutes though, I also mentioned the density and how we
Right.
could adjust the design. If you don't put them on individual lots, it's not just mentioned.
Right, and the changing to R4MF was a contingency plan because I know that things take a little while, so we were trying to do that at the same time so that we keep our clients happy and know that things are moving forward. But we wanted to go all the way forward with this one and see if we can get forward with these variances. So that's how we got here. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll go through the staff findings for the setback reduction. Again, the request is a 15-foot reduction of side and rear building setbacks from 25 foot to a minimum of 10 feet. The finding of facts, the first one, the preservation intent, that the variance, if granted, is consistent with the purpose and intent of the regulations of the district in which the development is located. No variance shall have the effect of permitting a use in any district that is not a stated or permitted use, accessory use, or conditional use of that particular district. The applicant's response, this request pertains to the City of Centerton Stormwater Management Drainage Manual, Section 3.2.3. More specifically, the establishment of building setbacks from drainage easements that were previously platted in 2011-2018. These platted easements are a combination of drainage easements and building setbacks that are being proposed to be utilized as drainage easements. Yielding to the current Centerton Stormwater Management and Drainage Manual, the building setback shall be established from the drainage easements. However, the rear drainage swale ranges from 12.6 to 12.8 feet on the southeasternmost buildings, and the side setback ranges from 10.1 to 24.5 feet on the southern and easternmost buildings. per the City of Centerton Stormwater Management and Drainage Manual, Section 5.3, the detention pond needs to be contained on its own line. When this happened, the southern and eastern borders of many of the lots was pushed inward, causing a problem with setbacks. The drainage swales contained within the drainage easements have been designed to maintain freeboard in the 100-year storm event, and the finished floor elevations of the townhomes adjacent to drainage easements are set at a minimum of 2 feet above and a minimum of 20 feet away from the 100-year storm event water surface elevation in the swale. The proposed development is seeking approval to move forward with construction of the townhomes as shown with a reduced setback from the recorded drainage easement while still adhering to the zoning regulations set forth in the City of Centerton zoning regulations, Chapter 14.04, Section H, for this type of development. The staff findings: the proposed variance does not grant a non-conforming use. However, the allowance of a decreased building setback is not consistent with the RTH MF zoning district. Do you guys agree with the staff comments or have any comments? Okay. Exceptional circumstances: that exceptional, extraordinary, or unusual conditions or circumstances applying to the lot, parcel, structure, or intended use exists that do not apply to other properties or uses in the same district which are unique to the individual property under consideration. Any applicant has the same response. The staff findings: the inclusion of detention lots within a separate lot is a standard design requirement and is not a unique, extraordinary, or unusual circumstance to this lot. And I think I would agree with the staff comments as well. Does anybody have anything different?
I agree. I think the response is pointing at two different city codes and trying to make them conflict against one another when they're not really that way. The drainage easement can be modified based on the design that's presented by the developer and engineer, so that can be modified as well. So those aren't set in stone.
Hardship not grounds for variance: that the special conditions and or circumstances do not result from the intended or proposed actions of the applicant. No variance may be granted solely on the basis of economic gain or loss. The applicant's response is the same as the first one. The staff findings: no hardship has been presented. Does anybody disagree with that? Preservation of property rights: that literal interpretation of the provisions of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of substantial rights commonly enjoyed by other parties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance. Again, the applicant's response was the same for the first one. The staff findings: literal interpretation of the provisions of this ordinance will not deprive the applicant of substantial property rights. You guys agree with the staff findings? Any discussion? Absence of detriment: that granting the variance requested will not create substantial detriment to adjacent property or that will materially impair or be contrary to the purpose and spirit of this chapter or the public interest. Again, the applicant's response was the same as it was for the first one. Staff findings: the intent of this setting building setbacks from drainage easements is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the general public and minimize flood risk, reducing that distance, increasing potential damage and risk in the future. Any comments on regards to the absence of detriment? The next one is the increase of building coverage on lots 17 and 20 from 40% to 47%. The findings of fact: the preservation of intent: that the variance, if granted, is consistent with the purpose and intent of the regulations for the district in which the development is located. No variance shall have the effect of permitting a use in any district that is not a state permitted use, accessory use, or conditional use of that particular district. The applicant's response: for the city requirements, the townhome coverage need not exceed 40% of the lot area per City of Centerton Code, Section 14.04.02, Part B. Two lots, lots 17 and 20, have a 46% coverage area. Lot 17 and lot 20 exceed the minimum by 6% due to the City of Centerton's stormwater management and drainage maintenance section 5.3, which states that the pond must be moved to its own lot. When this happened, the southern border of lot 17 and 20 was moved north, causing the percent coverage area to exceed 40%. The developer would like to proceed with the current proposed layout. This waiver would permit the development to construct the townhome as described while still adhering to the zoning regulations set forth in the City of Centerton zoning regulations, chapter 14.04, section H, for this type of development. The staff findings, the proposed variance does not grant a non-conforming use. However, the allowance of increased footprints is not consistent with a RTH in the zoning district. Does anybody disagree with the staff findings or have any comments on this one? Exceptional circumstances, that exceptional, extraordinary, or unusual conditions or circumstances applying to the lot, parcel, structural, or intended use exist that do not apply to other properties or uses in the same district, which are unique to the individual property under consideration. The applicant's response was the same as it was for the first one. Staff findings, the inclusion of detention lots within a separate lot is a standard design requirement. It's not unique, extraordinary, or unusual circumstance to this lot. Does anybody disagree with the staff comments? Hardship, not grounds for variance, that the special conditions and/or circumstances will result in the intended or proposed actions of the applicant. No variance may be granted solely on the basis of economic gain or loss. The applicant's response is the same as it was for one. The staff findings, no hardship has been presented. Does anybody disagree with that? Preservation of property rights, that little interpretation of this provision of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of substantial rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance. The applicant's response was the same as one. The staff findings, literal interpretation of the provisions of this ordinance will not deprive the applicant of substantial property rights. Does anybody disagree with the staff findings? The last one, the absence of detriment, that granting the variance requested will not create substantial detriment to the adjacent property or that will materially impair or be contrary to the purpose and spirit of this chapter or public interest. The applicant's response is the same as one. The staff finding, increasing the building coverage of lot 17 and 20 increases the impervious area of the parcel and is counter to the intent of the zoning code. Does anybody disagree with the staff findings or have any comments? Any final questions or comments from any of the planning commissioners? Jason or Isabel, any additional comments from you guys or any questions before we take a vote? Okay. There is nothing else from the commissioners, then I would entertain a motion for the variance 2104 Willow Crossing Townhomes, Lot 2D. There is suggested language in the package.
I'll make a motion to deny the request by property owner JTB Real Estate LLC for the following variances at the northwest corner of Marigold and Cedar Street for 13-foot reduction in lot.
Yeah, let me start. Did you say to deny?
Yes.
Let's make the motion in the affirmative and then they can vote
Okay.
against it.
Make a motion to approve the request by property owner JTB Real Estate LLC for the following variances at the northwest corner of Marigold and Cedar Street. A 13-foot reduction in lot depth from 100 foot to 87 feet, up to a 15-foot reduction of side and rear building setbacks from 25 to 10 feet, and increased building coverage on lot 17 and 20 from 40 to 47%.
We have a motion, do we have a second? Second. We have a motion, and we have a second. Roll call, please.
Ben Lewis,
No.
Tony Davis, John Sessoms,
No.
Craig Langford,
No.
Jerry Harris,
No.
Amber Beal, Joey Engel,
No, based on, there's no exceptional circumstances or hardship.
And Jeff Cycler.
Thank you, guys.
And then, of course, this, their development that was concurrent was, or subdivision, was contingent on this passing, so. And thank you for helping me out, so I didn't have a coffee. Hopefully I'll be better soon.
Everybody probably has the word memorized at this point.
I know.
No other business. The only announcement would be that we will have a BZA meeting on 1/4. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Motion and second. Is anyone opposed? All right. Now we're going to start with our City of Centerton Planning Commission meeting for December 21st, 2020. With a roll call.
Ben Lewis. Here. Tony Davis. Here. John Sessoms.
Here.
Craig Langford. Here. Jerry Harris. Here. Amber Beal.
Here.
Devin Murphy is absent. Joey Engel. And Jeff Cycler.
Still here. All right. First thing on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from 12/7 of 2021.
This is Joey, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from 12/7/2021.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right. Next on the agenda is the ratification of the administrative approvals. There are 3. There are no questions from any of the commissioners or any comments from staff. I would entertain a motion to approve admin approvals.
I'll make a motion to approve the administrative approvals.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right. For old business this evening, we do have Development 2108 Christian Life Center adjacent street agreement. It is south of 1011 Gamble Road. It is R3 and 2.80 acres.
Donna.
So you all have seen this one before. Saw this back in early June. The large-scale development was approved, and we were still working on getting the adjacent street agreement figured out. There were some questions about whether there was going to be a fee in lieu, what the numbers were going to be, that sort of thing. We've since gotten that worked out. The total has worked out to be right about $61,000. This has been approved by staff. So this includes, sorry, what?
Keep on.
Okay. There are going to be some partial improvements. There's going to be a 5-foot sidewalk constructed. There's going to be some drainage swales. So the fee in lieu includes some additional work on the road later, as well as storm work down the road. This is because with the work with Valley Oaks, there was some discussion with how that would affect that work that's just been done. So staff is in agreement that this fee in lieu of total looks good, and this is now coming to you for your approval, since this was not approved with the plans back when you saw it in June.
Any comments or questions or concerns in regards to the adjacent street agreement? There are not, then I would entertain a motion for the Development 2108 Christian Life Center adjacent street agreement.
This is Tony, I make a motion to approve, DEP 21-08 Christian Life Center adjacent street agreement. Mr. Jerry, I'll second.
Motion and second. Is anyone opposed? All right. First thing on the agenda this evening under new business is a public hearing. This is for PUD 21-06 Bush Road Community. is a Bush Road in Nottingham Lane. It is R1 and it's 1.84 acres. Bill, you want to give us a quick overview?
Sure. Here with you before about a rezone to R3 and it was approved. It's also been approved for council. This project is 2 acres, more or less. We show 18 units on the site, providing the necessary green space for the PUD. In the southwest and southeast corner, basically, there's a detention pond planned. We've worked out utilities and we'll work out the other construction details of the large scale time this year.
Don, do you want to give us a staff overview? And then we'll open up to the public after that.
All right. So this was approved by council at the last meeting. So it is quite a new rezone to R3 single family. It is about 2 acres. There is some confusion with the planning of the lots. It was in a tract split in 2016, however the warranty deeds were never filed. So it's still showing up on Benton County as one lot. So we are recommending a replat in order to clean up all the records. It is consistent with the uses of the R3 single family, as the proposal is for single family homes. The ownership is to be with 12 Stone Construction and Design, which is consistent with the PUD code. The proposal is for a single entry on Bush Road with the small homes aligned on either side. The building setbacks are generally with the R3 single family. The proposal is for front and street setbacks to be 25 feet, side setbacks to be 15, and rear setbacks to be 15. So that would be a change. The density would be the biggest item of discussion. It is a higher density that is being proposed than the R3 single family. The adjacent properties, there is an A1 property directly to the west, which is about 5 acres. The adjacent subdivisions are R2, they're about 4 units an acre. The proposed PUD is 18 homes on 2 acres, so that's about 9 units an acre. So it's a little high, at least for the R3 single family, which is about 7. There aren't any plans for accessory buildings. These are fairly small homes. They're roughly the size of the Copper Oaks cottage homes, to give you some context for something that's built. For open space, the PUD concept, it shows about 2.79 acres, which is about 26%, which is consistent, which would be preserved with an open space easement. So one of the conditions would be that that percentage would need to be maintained. Architecture will need to be figured out with a large scale development. And we would also need a landscaping plan. The parking with the PUD recommends that single family units have 2 covered and 2 uncovered for each dwelling unit. This provides one covered in the garage and double stacked driveway, which provides 18 covered, 36 uncovered. So We are recommending that the off-street parking spaces be marked as resident only, so that way we make sure that all the residences have the parking spaces they need. There's one sign, so that will be followed with the general conditions for suitability. It is maybe considered, maybe consistent. It is a higher density than the residences around it. It is small houses. It is within the residential area, so there are a number of comprehensive plan items in your packet that it is maybe considered consistent with. We are recommending street trees, and that it follow the new residential compatibility standards, because it is such a higher density than the areas around it. The large-scale development would need to dedicate right-of-way, and it would need to do street improvements like sidewalks, trails, street connections. So those are the specific conditions that we're recommending, than the general conditions that are typical with a PUD. So with that, the specific item that we want to bring to your attention is the density for consideration. Let me know if you have any questions. We did have a couple of public comments that were related to density. One was in an email and is included in your packet. We did get a couple of phone calls as well with concerns about the density.
At this time, we'll go ahead and open it up to the public. I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Craig, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for PUD 21-06.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, at this time, we are open to the public. If there's anyone that wishes to speak, any comments or questions in regards to the planning and development 2106, the Bush Grove community, we ask that you come to the podium. Second call for anyone who wishes to speak. And the third and final call. Just a note, I know Donna mentioned it, but I want to do it during the public comment area that we did in the email. It was included in the packet from President Pamela Raffles. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, at this time, I'll open it up to comments or questions from the commissioners. Any thoughts on the proposed density?
So with the main, one thing I'm looking at on the plan is, also, there's no road improvement to Bush Road to, act as like a deceleration lane or additional right turn lane or left turn lane. With all the traffic you got over there, if you turn left or right, there's potential to go back up. There's a lot of traffic over there. So I would ask to look at making an additional lane, a turning lane, there to allow traffic to get in and out of this.
Phil, I've never seen Carol go out the easement.
Yeah, it's gonna go underground. That's just overhead line there.
Right. And still never seen it. Have you coordinated that
Yeah,
with them?
we've already talked to them. We've got an email response from them. They were fine. It's just serving a single house there to the northwest.
That's not transmission line?
No. And I've got, just if I could respond to some of that, I know there was some comparison.
Just in time for you.
There was some comparison to the other project. I'm not familiar with Copper Oaks, but my understanding is those are 900 square foot homes, and I'm not better not. These are 1,200 square foot homes. These rooms are going to be full size bedrooms, so they're 302 baths. So they are bigger than what we saw in the other project. I've also talked to the owner, and they're open to reducing the density down. So if you're going to go down to losing 4 units, that would bring it to the 7 units an acre. So that would be in compatibility with R3 zoning that we've got approved already.
I think that would help.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry.
They're gonna go down and meet the
zoning.
zoning
They'd be
requirements.
willing to, right, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying, so your point, you'd be willing
We can approve it the other way if you want.
Now, he showed 970 square feet.
It's, they're
1,200.
Yes. So I think about that there.
And then the minimum green space for residential is 25%, correct?
We're at 26 right now, so we'll be at over 25.
I was just concerned.
Let's pause for just a second, because we do need to be able to understand the minutes.
This does sound like last night's meeting.
Well, that's too soon. Too soon.
John said too soon, too soon.
I'm just gonna type in the minutes, there were fireworks.
Yeah.
There you go.
Bill, there were fireworks.
Yeah, I was expecting fireworks this week.
Yeah.
I guess everyone's going out to watch them.
Where did I park? I never had luck with fireworks. You didn't have fireworks at your wedding?
Oh, good.
Cannon. Yeah, they tabled it until the salary study comes in. We're gonna look at it all. One look at the budget again. Looks like they're firing them off from Stubbs' place over there.
No, they're on the parking lot.
Oh, they were setting them up next to Rabel's car?
Yeah. They told Ray, well, just pull in right here. They lined them right on the parking lot.
Oh, really? That's true.
Do you know what the
Fireworks is my wedding.
I don't know, but Tuesday's a darn odd day for a wedding. Especially a wedding with fireworks. Oh my gosh, how long are they gonna go?
We're gonna have to hire them for the 4th of July. Get rid of the fire department.
Yeah. Walked out the restroom and like, oh, there they are. Yeah, are they done now?
This is Todd's last meeting.
Yeah, the fireworks are for Todd.
Todd, we did that for your last meeting.
Finally, we got rid of it.
All right, let's go ahead and reconvene.
I didn't want to have to drive all the way back.
It's nice. We don't get that long.
Todd, that was your going away.
Thank you. I didn't know what they were gonna be for, but man, I'm touched.
All right, let's go ahead and, one of my concerns as I look at it, and I think we did it up here, is the intent for each house to have a trash receptacle or two, and the trash truck to get down, that's in the operating arms that they're using today, or was there a comment that I missed?
I don't think that we've addressed that fully yet, but we'd be happy to make that part of our large scale.
I think it's something we need to consider because they're fully automated at this point.
Sure.
And I'm not sure there's a lot of turnaround room
Yeah. I mean, if we need to, we can put them in, have them lined up at the turn up at the hammerhead.
Rather not have that against the right of way. If we're talking about like
Yeah, just.
well, if we talk about losing,
Yeah, we'll lose 4 and we'll
you
spread
got
everything
some
out.
room.
Yeah, we'll spread everything out so that we're
So along Tony's lines, although that would be more traffic study related, improvements on Bush, what have you proposed
Yeah.
here?
No, we've confirmed that they're already at the Master Street lane width, it's 38 feet back to back curve. And so that was a comment earlier on, yeah, we've addressed that.
So you have, and you're adding the 10-foot trail?
Yes, we are. We're dedicating additional right of way and building that trail on Bush.
Well, is that the Master Street? Oh, you're saying the street section?
Streets already wider, yes, that's right.
I like landscaping to the north. I think we could probably beef it up along the south and the east, just due to the increase in density compared to neighbors. Sure. I mean, I'll be frank, I think, as part of that master plan, this is something that was identified. I think it's beneficial to try to find a way to make this work as best we can. But the increase in density from the 18 or to the 18, I don't feel comfortable with. But bringing it down and meeting the zoning classification, I would support with the increased street trees and landscaping. That's all I have.
Yeah, we're totally good with those changes.
Any other comments or questions? I don't want to forget John, just in case he has any questions or comments.
I have a question. What does fire have to say about the design of the street? Does it accommodate emergency vehicles?
It does. They don't want anything over 150-foot dead end, and so the way they want that fixed is with a hammerhead. We've made that fully legal for their according to fire code.
This is a different one I've seen, but it is original on that. I mean, there's not a whole lot of difference here. You just add purpose ones, right?
Yes, that's right.
It should be, as long as the turning radius that meets the, it's not over 150 foot, there's not 30 dwelling units, so it should be no limit. When you got a 30 minus the 8.
Yeah, it was 24 on the north southeast, but then it's 30 feet up on the.
Yeah, but you got cars parked in front.
Yeah, we're right.
So
The parallel parking, that's additional. That's good.
Didn't we make the no parking on one side?
Yes, on the south side of that.
Right.
That's right.
We've had a lot of stuff, so I'm just trying to read real quick.
Yeah, we can stripe it or.
Yeah. So that way we just don't get them double parked.
Sure.
Any additional comments or questions? There are not. I'm entertaining a motion for the PUD 2106, the Bush Road community. Again, it's the Bush Road and Nottingham Lane.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to approve the PUD with the items that we discussed tonight, reducing the density to meet the zoning classification, adding additional street trees and screening for the neighbors. And obviously we talked about dumpsters, fire lines, and any other outstanding staff call.
Still here a second.
Motion, you'll have a second. Todd, roll call.
Ben Lewis.
Yes.
Tony Davis.
Yes.
John Sessoms.
Yes.
Craig Langford.
Yes.
Jerry Harris.
No.
Amber Beal.
Yes.
Joey Engel.
Yes.
Jeff Seifler.
Yes. Thanks, Phil. Good luck. All right, next on the agenda this evening is another public hearing. This is PUD 2107 Ridgecrest. It's the northeast corner of Vaughn Road and Nugget Road, 47.55 acres in R3 single family. Is the applicant here to give us an overview? Sorry, I don't have your name listed on the sheet tonight.
Jesse Fulcher. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. We have a fairly straightforward project with the exception of one item we talked about at the end. This was a property that the Commission and Council rezoned about 5 months ago to R3 to allow single-family development on the property. That's exactly what we're proposing. The reason we complicated it and brought it through as a PUD is that there's a large overhead power transmission line on the west and north property, so it eats up a bunch of the acreage. And so we went with the PUD route, and honestly, it's probably producing a superior product by taking it through this way. Because of the 25% green space requirement, we've got quite a bit of green space on the exterior, similar to what we did at Morningside. We have a walking trail, which anytime I'm within that development, there's always somebody on it. So I think it's been a really great amenity for that subdivision. So we went with a similar concept here, and actually kind of creates 4 ways to walk because of the trail running down the north and west property lines, and then we'll connect to a 10-foot trail section along Vaughn. We'll be improving Vaughn along the street trees along the entire property frontage, and then we'll be improving Wagner, which is currently a dirt road with a 5-foot sidewalk. So actually be able to circulate the entire neighborhood. A little bit of additional green space in the middle. It's kind of a drainage area, potential wetland feature, so we just didn't put development in that area. That also helps with our green space amounts. Street trees for each lot as well will be included. So a lot of really good landscaping, a lot of good infrastructure improvements, and a lot of good pedestrian connectivity. So again, this was the intent, was that this property be developed as single-family homes. We think we've brought forward a much better development under the PUD, so we're excited about that. The only things that have come up recently, one, we've been talking about with staff is an navigation easement. I know that the airport officials have shown up at some meetings and talked about it. I know that it was talked about here just a couple of weeks ago about navigation easements, essentially putting people that come to purchase a home in the subdivision on notice that hey, here is a potential flat path. There will be noise, and so we have no issue with that. We've talked about it with a few different attorneys today, so no issue with that. The unique curveball that we got yesterday is sound attenuation. That is asking us to install special windows and special doors and do things to a home to, I guess, suppress the noise from the airport, which I've never heard of, and I know that the city attorney made mention of it last week that he didn't believe there was anything within the municipal code regarding sound attenuation. So this is not in the PUD regulations, this is not in the development code, this is just kind of pulling a standard out of thin air and then trying to apply it to this development. It didn't seem appropriate to ask for special windows and doors or whatever else may be needed to meet some standard to reduce the noise in these homes. It's certainly not going to be applied to any other homes in the area. In fact, I think that one of the neighbors was at the meeting and mentioned that it's really not that bad. They live on Wagner Road, right adjacent to this property. So that's the only curveball. I think from the development perspective, we've all done a really good job to get to where we're at. This sound attenuation is a potential issue, and I think there are some other folks that may want to comment on it, but I'd ask that that not be a part of the conditions of approval for this meeting. Thank you.
Donna, you want to give us a staff overview?
Sure. So this was rezoned from A1 to medium density single family, R3 single family, back in July. The current request is for a planned unit development, as was stated. At this time, what we need you to do is make a motion to approve or deny the planned unit development with conditional determinations. The request is for 2 parcels. One is 47.5 roughly, and the other is right about 1. The use is consistent with the R3 single family zoning designation. The PUD states that the property be in single or corporate ownership at the time of filing, which is true in this case. It is owned by Melvin and Judy Kaufeld, who have both applied for the PUD. It does also, the PUD code does also state that any subdividing shall be defined at the time of the PUD application, which is what you are seeing with this concept plan. The design is for a roughly 175 acre lot with a walking trail loop around the edges beneath the existing utility easements adjacent to Wagner Road. There is a detention lot at the southeast corner with some connecting open spaces. There are a couple of proposed changes from the underlying zoning code. There's a request for a minimum lot width reduction from 60 feet to 50 feet. For the minimum lot area from 6,000 square feet to 5,000. And working to be discussed at number 8. The density is consistent with the R3 single family. It is about 3.6 units an acre, so it's actually pretty low for R3 single family. The proposed plans do not include any accessory buildings, though accessories buildings are allowed with R3 single family. There's, with the concept, we're working out exactly meeting the 25%, but that's something we're going to clarify with the large-scale development. There's just some little inconsistencies with what exactly the numbers are and getting the numbers to match to meet the 25%. The retention ponds can't account for more than half, so that is consistent. And there's no more than 15% can count, so we will also be looking at that. So as part of the conditions, no less than 25% of the development shall be preserved as common usable open space, and must be dedicated as an open space easement. Architectural treatment shall be looked at with the subdivision plan, landscaping and tree preservation. We'll need to look at also with the subdivision plan. The lot doesn't include a ton of substantial trees, but if we can preserve any, significant trees, we would like to. We do want to have street trees where we can, adjacent to Bush and Nottingham, and the interior streets, also adjacent to Wagner and regarding parking, this is a specific item under the PUD. It recommends 2 covered and 2 uncovered for each dwelling unit, which is included. In addition, they're also including, sorry, I think that is a typo. Entry signs are proposed along the entrances, so we will need to see that with the subdivision code. Regarding suitability, Alex is here with the airport, so this will be a topic of discussion. The PUD does state that we need to look at the proposed use and show that it is necessary and desirable, and that it shall contribute to the general well-being of the surrounding areas. So that is a consideration with the proximity of the airport. So there are some items in here, just give you some general information about airport proximity, noise. It's a lot of things you've seen recently. You saw with the rezoning of the property, that sort of thing. So I won't go into that super heavily. But one of the big items that we've seen and that has been requested multiple times by the airport has been the navigation easement, plat notification, and the sound attenuation, as was mentioned. Those have been requested from the rezoning stage for all of these properties that are in direct proximity to the airport. As was stated, there's not opposition to the navigation easement. The plat notification is essentially a notice on the plat. So if a property is purchased, they've been notified that they're in proximity to the airport and by your own risk, essentially. Sound attenuation, I'm sure Alex can provide more information, but it's essentially building the house a little bit more soundproof. As I'm not neither a builder or a soundproofing engineer, I will let Alex handle that information. We did discuss street improvements, and the discussion has essentially led to, with Wagner Road, we do want right-of-way dedications, but there would be more improvements along Nugget Road. We would like to see right-of-way in exchange for more improvements along Wagner and Brook. And we'll need to work out an adjacent street agreement with subdivision sale. Aside from that, there are the general conditions that are pretty typical with PUD and conditional uses. Fire code, that sort of thing. Have any questions, please let me know.
This time, we will go ahead and open the public, so I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion and a second to open the public hearing. Is anyone opposed? All right, this time we are open to the public. If anyone wishes to speak or have any comments or questions, we just ask that you state your name and interest or address, and then
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Bill Watkins. I'm Attorney Rogers. I'm here on behalf of Easements tonight. First, I want to start with saying how much we appreciate the applicant agreeing to the navigation easement. That was extraordinarily important to the airport. That solves a lot of problems for us. So I really appreciate him being willing to do that. It helps us out quite a bit. But we can't just talk about it in vague general terms. Like any easement, whether it's utilities or a right-of-way, we need to have some terms and some understanding of what that is. There are some critical things that are important to the airports. I've had some correspondence with the applicant's in-house attorney late this afternoon, and I think we're pretty close to getting there. But for the record and for your information and for the purposes of what you may be considering tonight, the elements that we really need to see in this navigation easement are the right to fly over the property generally, the right to create noise, vibration, and fumes that are all associated with operations in airports, to prevent landowners from constructing things that exceed a certain height. Obviously, city code is going to apply to that. For R3 SF is 40 feet. If somebody came in and rezoned it to something else, we need to look at that. But certainly, we need to be conscious of somebody putting up a 100-foot ham radio tower or something like that in this area. This area is just outside what's called the outer safety zone, and it is within the traffic pattern. So this is an important piece of property for the airport and for its operations. Other things we need to consider, if somebody did put up a tower, we need to be able to, we couldn't get it removed, we need to be able to go and put a light on it. And the ability to prohibit electrical interference or directed lighting or glare from the property. If somebody doesn't like the airplanes flying over, they can't have a spotlight mounted in the backyard, they the aircraft, that sort of thing. So this property is within the 55 decibel boundary area, according to one of the recent noise studies. There's a serious question of compatibility, particularly at night. It's at 55 decibels, so it's important that this navigation easement not only appear on the plat, but in discussions with their in-house counsel, I think we're also going to be able to secure a separate instrument to record the real estate records, so that'll accomplish a lot for us. Again, we really appreciate the applicant working with us on that. Because we got the navigation easement pretty well worked out, we're not going to ask you to impose any of the sound attenuation standards. I'll leave it to Mr. Rabel to advise you whether you even have the authority to do that. We'll stay out of that discussion. I certainly would commend it to the applicant for him to consider. We don't want to get sued. I don't think they want to get sued. Those are the kinds of things that can certainly reduce that possibility. As I said, we are not here asking you to impose those sound attenuation standards. Do you have any questions of me as the representative here?
I saw the notes. I didn't get to study very much of them. They didn't print them out for me. Some of the things you brought up this evening, I think, are new in regards to the potential height requirements. Some other things I think are legal when it comes to a spotlight and some other stuff, but I don't know if that needs to be in there. But I don't know how we handle max height of anything in there. I didn't see that as part of any of the comments earlier.
I think where we can leave it right now is that the maximum height would have to comply with the city code for the zoning for that particular area. As it's zoned right now, it's 40 feet. That's not going to be a problem. But we'd have to be conscious of somebody coming in and planting a redwood, or where that's going to be in 20 years, or putting up, as I said, a ham radio tower. It's an aircraft could hit. Of course, the ham radio tower would present its own problems by creating radio interference. It would interfere with navigation of the aircraft. I don't want to be on the airplane that goes down because Joe Smith was talking to somebody in Siberia at the time with his ham radio. So those are things we need to keep in mind. Any other questions you might have of me?
I do not. Do any of the other commissioners have any questions?
Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thanks, Bill. Anyone else wish to speak or have any comments or questions in regards to PUD 2107 Ridgecrest? You gonna make Melvin do it, or are you gonna do it?
I don't know.
He wasn't moving.
He was a little bit smarter than like this on me. Judy Caulfield. I live now on Shady Acres Road as we moved into our new house. And I think several of you were at the meeting with the airport. There was nothing, we are not considered in the flight plan that piece of property at all. Where the flight was on the Angling property, which has already been approved for R3 housing for 80 acres. And also, they are not going to be have to do anything different to the houses than the houses that have been built in that area. We went to that meeting, with the airport, and, matter of fact, as it may be, we live on Shady Acres, and the airplanes do come right over my house, where we live now, and then where it goes, because we were not considered in the flight plan, but it is on the Ford property, which was next to us on Wagner Road, and the Anglin property. So I was a little bit surprised that came up, since my understanding is the flight plan that they are going by was accepted by Bentonville, the city of Bentonville, but to my knowledge, I don't think the city of Centerton accepted it. So we have not agreed that is for Centerton. So that's my question, and I was a little surprised that it came up because it was discussed very deeply at the meeting that was at the Water and Sewer Department with the airport and with others, had information. So that's my only statement. Unless you have more details, I don't.
You know, we've owned this property out here for a long, long time. And the airport came around before they ever built that airport. Told us, you know, folks, if you're in an area that's gonna be bothered with sound and stuff, we'll take and redo your home, put the windows in and all that kind of stuff. You know, we never seen about that until this year started up. And I don't know, was the airport involved in those the other day that we just done a rezone and stuff on? Or are they just now coming in because it's our place?
They were here.
Huh?
They were here.
They was here on the 2 on Fox. That's all I have.
All right, anyone else wish to speak in regards to the PUD 2107 Ridgecrest? And I'll do a last call.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second to close the public hearing. Is there anyone opposed? Comments from any of the commissioners?
I have a couple. Can we talk about the road improvements on Nugget? Just what the plan is tomorrow. It doesn't look like the drive's coming all the way through. Mr. Fulcher, you want to address that?
Yes, sir, thank you. Early on, we discussed with staff what improvements we should focus on, and because we have no access to Nugget, the assumption we've made working together was that let's focus all our improvements on Vaughn Road, get that widened, get that trail in, and then get Wagner paved, because we will be accessing that street. And that was the reason, just focusing efforts to make the most improvements to 2 streets versus some improvements to 3 streets.
So from my recollection of the code, it's a requirement to improve all of the adjacent streets. So I'm a little concerned that we don't have first street improvements on all 3 sides.
Okay.
Just to be.
Yeah, and it was more of, should we just pave, or should we take some of those improvement dollars and put them somewhere else?
Well,
and that's just where we kind of landed with
right,
that.
and I think the improvement dollars are the improvement dollars based on the code.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be full improvements on all 3 sides. That's one we want. It looks like you're showing some, but maybe not quite full improvements on that.
Yeah, on Nugget, it was, if I recollect correctly, were we doing sidewalk there? We're doing right-of-way dedication.
Looks like maybe just right.
That was my understanding, and again, that goes back to some early conversations with staff on, you know, we had a couple of different options that we looked at, and this is the one we landed on, which I felt that everyone's kind of in agreement on that.
Staff here.
We did have some discussions with Public Works, and there were some conversations about right-of-way at Nugget versus fully improving the Vaughn and Wagner intersection and potentially for what a traffic study
And
might
it's a
lie.
requirement to do all of the adjacent road improvements? Well, exactly. Well, then that's what I'm saying.
So I guess what y'all are trying to compromise with is you're doing full width improvements, right?
We're,
The way I'm understanding, the way I'm seeing it.
yeah, we're widening from center line, so we're making Vaughn a wider road.
It's center line, but no full width on.
Yeah.
And then, Nugget, or excuse me, Wagner's full improvements. We're not doing the curb and gutter on the east side, but we're doing the curb and gutter sidewalk and a full 20-foot pavement section along that entire line.
I got you. So there is a little additional on Wagner?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's kind of what I was thinking. My only concern on that is closer not addressed to you is that we don't get some sort of improvements on Nugget. You know, when do we get those? We're not going to get them. So that's my concern.
And I just mentioned, yeah, it's a county road, it's under county jurisdiction. That was a part of the conversation we had. It's been a while since we talked about this. That's what it was. Yes, sir.
We have made some agreements with the county though, and worked on a couple of nice roads in town that have helped us subdivisions go from dirt to hard surface. So it is something that we have a history with.
I have a question. So Wagner Road is remaining just local? Or is it a minor collector?
It's showing a little, well, the BUD, let me put it this way, BUD shows it as a local.
Wagner Road is a local road, Nugget is a major collector, and Vaughn is a minor.
In my opinion, we're kind of backwards.
Because we're having a new road.
Correct.
One question that I made a note of, I believe if I was reading it correctly, your rail is going to be under the electric line, is that correct?
Yes, sir. It's going to run within the existing electric easement on the north and west sides. Along Vaughn will be a new section of trail, and that's your trail master plan. And so that will just be along the roadway and then all connected by 5-foot sidewalk.
So the electric companies agree with that?
No, but we've worked with them on several occasions, including the one side. It's never been an issue, but I'll certainly get confirmation of that.
For some reason, I don't feel like we've addressed the road adequately.
I don't think so either, and
I think we should go back to a more robust discussion on how we got to where we did and truly what does that whole area look like up there? Because there are additional properties. We're about to dump a lot of houses in this area. And so I would like to understand what else is going on around it, because I don't remember everyone that we see that comes in here.
Street plan and the zoning is relatively up to date. That's one of my to-dos. But it does have it reasonably.
I do like the street chase.
exception of the one that just passed city council the other day. This is the property right here.
Hey, Diane, you might want to turn off these property city limits.
Okay. Yeah, that kind of.
So yeah, looks like,
There.
looks like Wagner, I don't know, is that just the logo?
Wagner. Yeah, I'm about to do that for you. No, I thought I'd go the other direction. Wagner is just a local road, and Nugget is the collector, and Vaughn Road is a minor arterial. Oh, sure. There we go.
Didn't we do something about that? Were the duplexes on this side or the on the other side?
They are, right here.
Okay, so they're probably marked.
But there is another, which I do need to add to this one, duplexes that are like right, a small little section right here. That's
Piece right in
duplexes.
the middle.
Yeah, that's big.
So was there a reason given on why there was no road improvements proposed on the west side? The status?
On the west side of what?
Over here
West
on
side.
Nugget.
I don't know that we have people do things.
I don't know that I was in the conversation. I don't remember the conversation.
I mean, because it's not meeting our design criteria, right? That's what we require, road improvements, and we got a plan that's not adequate, that needs help. Am I wrong in that?
I think
Part, I think you're virtually right. We're required to improve the other half of the road, adjacent to the master street. Or some other modified road. There's a couple of restrictions. Okay, if she in lieu of. And I think what Jesse was suggesting in the meeting, potentially staff thought it might be reasonable to put the improvements, to have street improvements on the west road, and put them on Easement, with the street. I think it's.
I'm agreeing with that, but the code says all the way around, correct?
Well, the code gives options. It's all the way around. It's four modified sections as approved by the plan commission, or the amendment.
And so what you're proposing, to make sure I understand it, is just from the south and the east property half road, correct?
It's more than half on Wagner. It's like 3/4 on Wagner. And that's what we kind of looked at with staff was what gives us two good roads versus one good road and two roads that are half pavement, half dirt.
No, I'm with you there. I'm 100% aware. I just wanted to kind of catch myself up with what.
We'll be able to explain
Discuss
it.
with staff.
So we're not getting two good roads, we're getting 3/4 instead of.
Yeah, and well, there's other issues with Nugget if it's county. The right of way might not be there for the western half. So what do you, how do you do that? So there's other issues, but I feel like those improvements or something are very important for Nugget because it is designated as a higher density or higher traffic volume road, bigger right of way, bigger streets. Currently, we're not getting.
I just need to switch back. share it on Zoom. See if I can zoom in and not make my computer freak out like I did a minute ago.
So if the east side, I'm thinking through this, if the east side is 3/4 approved, if you're a resident and you want to use that road, you're not gonna want to drive on 3/4 of the road. I don't think we get anything out of
I'm interested to see what 3/4 of the road really looks
The
like.
only thing that's missing is the curb and gutter
Curb and gutter on
the
the
east side.
east
right?
side.
You're getting a full 20-foot paved road, curb and gutter, and a 5-foot sidewalk, green space, and street trees.
What's the street section for local road? Surely it's bigger than 20 feet.
It's 50-foot right of way, 30 feet, 30 feet of pavement.
Is that where you're going? That's not 3/4.
It's 2/3.
I'm just having trouble with the math.
What was being proposed for Nugget?
Nothing, right away.
Yeah, right away, because we're taking the half street improvement over there and we put it over on Wagner, so you
But
get
I don't feel that's an apples to apples dollar value comparison. We have a larger road section on Nugget, and that half section for Nugget would definitely cover your 20-foot and your curb and gutter, if not more.
Joey, I found an email from Lance to the engineer back in November, if you'd like me to read it. Staff has looked at the rough site plan. The following are what we would like to see. We agree with your proposal of building a required road all the way to the intersection in place of building curb and gutter along the roads, add street trees to Bond Road. Additionally, we would like the following: a sidewalk added north to south on Wagner Road for future connectivity around the development on the southeast corner, a connection of the sidewalk on the north side of the property connecting Nugget Road, a required right-of-way along Nugget Road with additional street trees on Nugget. If I missed any additional information or suggestions to the rough site plan, staff will comment further.
And also with them discussing the corner, I believe back in November, this portion of the property was not included in the development. That's why they were talking about going all the way to the corner.
That's correct.
And now it is all included.
About one.
Oh, I'm sorry, this portion right down here in the southeast corner.
Oh,
Yeah, it's kind of hard for you to see. I know, no problem.
So we're definitely missing the street trees on Nugget regardless.
That was the only thing that we said, I'm not sure because of the overhead power line, I don't know if we can actually put them over there. That was the only thing we couldn't guarantee we could do.
Right. Looks like you got some room between these
Yeah.
something. I'm sure that we can work something out there. They might have different species that we can go in there.
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
But I still think we're hung up on the road frequency.
So is the power line within that right of way? And that's the problem over there, doing improvements?
Looks like the power line is outside of the road. I think.
I believe you're
I
correct.
can't see all of the labels.
It's probably directly adjacent to the right of way, which makes it the challenge of having to get improvements in the new power line. I don't know if that's an issue or not. Again,
Yeah, it looks
our
like
original
it's
conversations were just about
right here. Power line.
making full improvements with the exception of curb and gutter on the street that we were actually accessing.
But that's not what we have. Because you show 20, and that's a 30.
Yes, but I mean, if we want on-street parking for really, really fast driving, we want 30, but otherwise 20 would be.
No, the code says 30.
Yeah, and that's not, that's very hard. That's a code.
Just 215 foot, is that a turn lane? Is there a turn lane?
Do we have this concept?
It's our standard spec right now. That's pretty clear.
We were just trying to work through what staff members thought were best.
Okay, sorry guys.
You want us to try to widen further on our side along back here?
I don't know that we came to that conclusion or not.
We've done several things in the past. I mean, there's options, right? If you don't widen it, you paint the whole road, mill and overlay the whole road. And that's been done. And there's just several options that this staff can bring to us for consideration.
Okay.
They're just improvement.
And to be frank, I mean, that's kind of the only thing I want. I don't see any huge issues with site plan density. Seems to me, street trees, all that. I did have one question. The natural areas. On one side, I think we have it obviously because of the power line adjacent to the right of way, and then all of the others are internal. I was just wondering what the thought was on that. I mean, obviously it'd be nice to have some separation between the right of way. But then again, you don't want kids playing in a natural area up by the road. That's the only thing I said.
Part of that natural area down by Vaughn is detention.
Sure.
And,
I was more talking about the northeast
okay.
section. We got 3 of them up there.
Yeah, I'm okay with the plan on road. I'm still, or lack of road.
Nugget is a county road?
I believe that's what we were
Have
informed.
they been?
You know, we're still talking about, okay, that Nugget's one issue, but now we're talking, I'm the one
Right on
that's
Wagner.
Wagner too. I mean, so that's talking about multiple issues here.
Yeah, and technically, if we're just talking about half road group, they're over on Wagner because you're showing 20. So that would meet it, and technically they could reduce it by 5 feet and meet that. Ideally, I think we have full half-lane or half-width road that's along the entire frontage of this property. I think that's ideal. Now, there could be issues that pop up right away with, ownership of each adjacent property on the other side of the street. I think that's something we need to work through, but I don't know if we have all the information to make that call. And that's unfortunate, because it seems to be the only thing that we can hold.
What are your thoughts on potentially coming back with a adjacent street agreement before we have, maybe even before we have a large scale subdivision plan, just as we get things worked out?
I'm okay with money in lieu of too, because, I mean, Nugget is Nugget. I mean, it's not gonna be developed tomorrow, right? So, but in the future, it can be, it probably will be, at some point in time. We don't wanna be,
Right.
have our opportunity, yes.
And
That's how we develop, is that developers develop, right? That's how we grow. And I don't wanna miss an opportunity.
For sure, and I think, if it comes back to, this really is the best idea, what I would, prefer that staff at least consider and saw was a cost comparison of what your half-width improvement on Nugget was, half-width on all of them, versus what you have shown right now, to make sure that that's even. Where can we get, what our code calls?
And if there's a difference, that would be like the money in lieu
That
of
would
fee.
be, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That seems very reasonable. And to some degree, we went through that exercise. I just don't have any of that information in front of me. Yes, sir.
But Donna, if that's something that we can do, I'm supportive. Just to keep them moving.
And just again, a note that Wagner's gonna get some traffic out of this thing, so it does concern me if we get one half, so certainly open to ideas.
So
maybe that's the easiest way to do it, is just do a cost analysis between all of it.
Okay.
And show that you're meeting that with what you're proposing.
Okay.
Is the thought from staff the fact that we are actually, this subdivision actually accesses Wagner and accesses to the south?
It could be, but code says it's all frontage.
Yeah.
It needs to be improved.
It's, a lot of people will say, well, I don't access it, so I don't impact it. But they actually do, because they'll go to one road, go before the
Understood.
road.
And I think,
Is there a reason why you didn't connect into Nugget?
Just because.
So they didn't have to improve.
There's a very conscious conversation. Because if you're connecting in, that's dictating your design. And then it's like, well, do we try to use the frontage there and have that be I don't know. It just was cleaner, simpler. You kind of put it behind you.
I think the easement probably played a lot in that.
Yeah, that really drove the design.
What if you made the motion with the requirements for road improvements on the 3 roads, with those road improvements to be required as you approve?
Quantified? Yeah. Yeah. Well, on however we divvy that up, yeah. And then it'd just be a straight approval of PUD with clarification further on.
one of those, right?
Are all the commissioners or is anyone not in agreement with that as far as the roads? It seems as though the navigation easement was worked out ahead of time. I did see the few emails that went back and forth in regards to that. Is anyone opposed to the navigation easement and notice?
But no insinuation.
Correct.
That's not been asked for.
Correct.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Were those the only two?
Sure.
We're just going by what it said.
Yeah, I know. He's new here, sorry. Alex makes that next today. While we can't enforce the sound attenuation, just for the record, for our grant assurances, we do want the commission to know we do recommend them. Just wanted to make sure that was noted. Okay.
Thank you. All right, was there anything else?
I had a question about, there was an off-street parking that said C number 8. Was there an issue with the parking or was that conversation?
No, that was just, parking is specifically brought up in, the PUD requirement, so it was just a note to see staff item number 8 for more information.
But there is no, it's all handled within each line. Right?
Yeah.
Any more discussion from staff or from the commissioners? If there are not, then I would entertain a motion for the PUD 2107 Ridgecrest.
I don't want to make a motion to kind of.
You ready, Tony?
Yeah.
Alright. This is Joey. I'll make a motion to approve PUD 2107 Ridgecrest. With meeting the code on the adjacent street improvements, that there should be a half lane or half width improvement for every frontage. And that those details are still yet to be worked out with the staff, but that's the expectation on the road improvements. Along with that, tonight we discussed the navigation easements and various other staff comments, also noting the street trees along Nugget.
Second.
Yeah.
A motion and we have a second. Todd, if you will do a roll call for me, please.
The last note in there. I don't wanna miss this. Well
Your
done,
last
Joe.
one.
That's right. Ben Lewis.
Yes.
Tony Davis. John Sessoms.
Yes.
Craig Langford.
Yes.
Jerry Harris.
Yes.
Amber Beal.
Yes.
Joey Engel.
Yes.
And Jeff Seifel.
Yes.
Who is it?
I don't know whose it's zapping.
All right, next on the agenda this evening is a public hearing for conditional use 2113. Hubert Mitchell Workspace, 3670 McIntosh Way. It is R2, it's a .22 acre office space for Arkansas team.
Hello.
Is it Oscar?
This is Arturo Legal. With Rivers Homes. I represent this conditional use permit to the city. We are wanting to have some workspace for our Arkansas team away from the mobile home, so we have more park our neighborhood over there. And I'm here with any, for any question you guys may have.
I think my allergies are cooperating with me now, so I believe we're all good this time. As are discussed, they would like to provide office space for their Arkansas team there for Hubert Mitchell. They are kind of using this current home right now for office space. It is lot 69 of Orchard Park, phase 3. It is located along McIntosh Lane. And they are wanting to use it, like I said, for office space, for employees, away from the model homes, because they do have model homes across the street and then located on whatever the east-west street is over there, that the name has eluded me. What was that? Brayburn? Awesome, thank you.
That's exactly.
Hey, that would be a fun street name. So they are using, other homes in that area for use that's not your typical residential use, and they do have a conditional use permit for those model homes currently. There are no changes to the interior of the home. They will be closed on Saturdays and Sundays, so there will just be activity at the home Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. There will be 3 to 4 permanent employees there, and then meetings on occasion. There shouldn't be really any clients because anyone wanting to look at the model homes will be going to the model homes across the street and not this particular one. So it's not open to the public. Parking, they say, will be primarily on lot 70, not open to the public. Additional parking will always be available across the street on lot 79 to keep cars off the street. There is a temporary parking lot, and once the model home uses are completed, it will be restored to a regular lot for building a home. No signage is proposed for this, and of course, it just has your typical water, sewer, and typical utilities that people would have for just a regular single-family home. The property is adjacent to R2 zoning, which is what all of Orchard Park Phase 3, 1 through 3, or 4 or 5, is considered. It's not located in a floodplain. It is a single-family home. It does front on McIntosh Way. Now, Art, is lot 70 the gravel lot next door?
Yes, correct. It's to the west.
Okay. Could they not park either in the driveway or the
lot 79.
garage and then in that finished parking lot instead?
Yes, we can make some adjustments on that.
Okay.
Right now, the way we've been using this, there's 3 managers over there, officing over there. In the mornings, the building have a meeting, so that's why they've been using the lot 70, which is a gravel area, and then they're out of there at 8 a.m. So permanent people, there's only 3 people over there, and they're like coming in and out as well. So
I drove by at 12 today, and there were at least 12 vehicles parked in that parking lot.
Yeah.
Which is not 8 o'clock.
Yeah, so eventually there'll be meetings as well as we state over there. So that's another reason for us to have that as a kind of like workspace. So if the building have to have a meeting for any reason, if the sales team have to have a meeting, there'll be meetings over there. What we're saying, there's not gonna be permanent people, more than 3 people over there through the day. So.
At first, I was worried about tying up lot 70 with this conditional use, but now it seems like a good idea to hold it adjacent to it with parking, for parking.
Essentially, the way that I look at this, I mean, they're wanting to put in, I understand the condition of what they're requesting, but they're wanting to build in or treat that home as an office.
Correct.
In a subdivision.
Correct.
Is what they're trying to do, and based on what they're proposing, I'm not sure that it meets that if I consider the parking. Well, if you take the square footage, what would we consider for parking if we were gonna do an office? Understand it's temporary, but we still have to think about it. So that's the way that I'm looking at it, just so that you guys know. But anyway, keep going, Diane.
Yeah, but well, I confused myself because I was like, wait a minute, lot 70 is one next door. This is lot 69, so please forgive me.
The house is on 69, but 70
correct.
is also impacted.
Correct, because that's apparently where they have been parking. So please excuse my error, and it should be staff shall park in the garage or driveway of lot 69, not 70, or the parking lot.
They can't do though if.
But there is that parking lot
Across the street.
across the street, that's lot 79. Across the street. And then parking shall not be allowed on the adjacent road or yard of lot 70, which would be the gravel lot, the lot
70
next door.
No, 70 is the one they park on.
Correct.
So, yeah, so we do have an existing parking lot, kind of like parking space on lot 79 for the row homes. And that's right behind the row home. So, can you show
Huh?
There's a page that shows.
There's lots of-
There we go. There we go.
Hang on just a second. Let me turn this so it makes sense. There.
Perfect. Yeah, so lot 79 is a parking area that we have for the mall homes.
Which is hard surface.
Parking.
Yes.
Yeah, correct. And what we've been doing is, if we have a meeting that have more than 5-6 people, we put some gravel on lot 70, which is the lot kind of west, north to the lot 69.
70 overflow. 79's model home.
Not today at noon.
What did it look like at noon, Jeff?
It was packed.
Where?
Including just in 70. And it's not just today. I happen to drive that way now because of the bypass, which is the most awesome thing in the world. So it's not just today, it's on a pretty regular basis. And not only is it 70, but if we were to scroll up, they also have parking on the other side, which would be farther north, I guess, actually across the road. There's actually.
I can't zoom out anymore.
They built parking spots up there where people are parking as well.
Over here?
It's 72. It's not just lot 70, if that's 72 and 73, they also have parking where they have put gravel in, where there's vehicles that are on a pretty regular basis too, that I'm seeing. Because there's no houses on them yet, and so where the cut is, they put gravel. So it's not just parking in 70, it's also, I guess it would be 72 and 73.
So your concern is now we're adding an office to that?
Yeah, so now we're gonna put an office
in.
in. So that's just the reason I'm asking, how do we, thinking about the residents and other things, plus how we would treat this as if it was an office.
Yeah, well,
right? I mean, if we were looking at a conditional use for other offices, one of the things we always ask is for parking, and we ask for who's coming and who's going on every application that we give from call it a home occupation or whatever you want to call it. If someone was gonna have deliveries or anything, that's the kinds of questions that we ask. And so that's the way that I look at this. If we allow them to put on lot 70, then that's not what they're asking for tonight. They're asking for a condition of lot 69, if I remember right.
It lists 70 in there.
It does, they do
The front
state,
page- The front page says 69.
yes. And then they
I don't know if that
do,
changed anything, but tonight, what went out to the public says 69.
yeah, and they did state in their summary for the applicant that parking will be primarily on lot 70, not open to the public. But yes, the conditional use, the office space is for lot 69.
Are y'all currently using this office space, or are you building another house and adding more office space?
No, we're just using that office space right now.
Okay.
And just a question, would it be fine for us to also add lot 70 for a conditional use as well?
Not if
Would
it
that
didn't go
help?
out to the public.
Pardon me?
Not if it did not go out to the public.
Okay, yeah. So
we have to do it again.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry, Diane, did you get through the staff comment?
No, that was the biggest one that we had, and also a condition that they have a fire inspection and a business license. And make sure that everything is good, you know, from the building side as far as a certificate of occupancy for that. And with the fire inspection, find out if there's anything specific that you need in that home, since you are using it as an office and not just a residence and having people work there and people come in and out. And then of course the typical, you know, no crazy loud parties. So you do have to follow, you know, the noise ordinances and then the general conditions for a conditional use. And one of the things, you know, like I said, the parking, I do have to fix my error there. That the parking should be in the garage or driveway of lot 69 or the parking lot on lot 79 across the street, and not allowed on the adjacent road or yard of lot 70.
I just have a question, I just don't know what we thought about before we had it come up, but can someone just put gravel on the line? Parking it if it's not for residential. Because technically it would then be used for business purpose, it wouldn't be used for residential.
Is it parking allowed use in a residential?
I mean, currently that's where the graders and the bulldozers and the dump trucks go, right?
I'm gonna go ahead and open up for public, since it's a public hearing, and then we'll come back and finish our comments. So I'm gonna entertain a motion to open the public hearing for conditional use 2013. Motion and a second, is anyone opposed? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak or have any questions or comments on the conditional use 2013 for the Stuart Mitchell workspace? Second call. And third and final call for anyone who wishes to speak in regards to the conditional use 2013.
Joey, I'll make a motion for this public hearing.
Second. Motion and a second, is anyone opposed? So let's focus on 69, because that's
Yes,
what was published.
that is correct.
And any comments or questions or even concerns in regards to allowing a home office occupation, I'm gonna call it, which is essentially what it is. A little bit more than that in a residential subdivision.
I'd like to start with item 1, it's listed right there on that screen. Term of approval regardless of the home occupation aspect, but understanding what they're doing. Even if this page right here shows 2 years. Is there a way to add in any sort of?
I was responding to Lorraine.
Okay. Is there a way to say? I mean, I don't want them to be able to use that for other, like when all the homes are built, still continue to be able to use something like that.
Or put a cap on
the cap, like once all the rest of the homes are built.
I like the percentage of the use of the device, like 75% of the homes are built or whatever.
Because when they're building other places in our city, to continue to use that in that property. I don't know if is that something we can add a condition or something.
Yeah.
And then the note that the use permit is transferable to other entities. I mean, oh, I got it.
And I saw a section where now for 3 years. Not 2
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, it should have been 2 because they are asking for it to be the same amount of time after the conditional use on the model homes.
Yes,
So they've
correct.
already done that for a year.
Yeah, correct. And just some context.
And the
on this.
date is correct.
Yeah, so we just wanted to add this to what we already have on the wall homes. It's not our intent to stay there forever. We usually kind of like move on whenever the work is done as well. And we're, you guys are very aware that we're trying to get some other benefits as well. Something that I want to state, just for the record, we get a little confused on the way the conditional permit use was granted for the mobile homes. So we got some management change, and it looks like they made the call to, go ahead and use this house. And then we found out that we need to come and get this permit. So that's why we're here today, and we're more than willing to follow the rules that you guys actually set. So I'd like to say that. Yes. Appreciate it.
For the length of time, it says 3 years after, I'm assuming, certificate of occupancy on model homes or what?
They included that as the model homes because they would like for this use to be the same period of time as those model homes.
Gotcha.
So that would be the 3 years total, but this now technically would be about 2 years.
2.5 by that.
2.5, yes.
I just wanted to clarify, it was referred to as a home occupation. This is not a home occupation. It's just a business in a residential.
I misspoke on that, but then as I think about that, I mean, is it even gonna be possible?
Is that even
And I'm thinking about
use?
And so now I'm looking back at Paul, because I think as they get to some of the conditions on using it as a business, then does that potentially change? Because there's signage, correct, I mean, and some.
They, when they're model homes, they already had to meet essentially everything you have to have if it was a business. That's the way we set it up. You gotta have your exit lights, your fire extinguishers in the same amount of distance. If they're using something equipment, they have to have extra protection. So the model homes already meet that standard, and this would have to be able to exceed that same standard.
I understand the purpose of why you do this, but when I drove by the other day in the morning, literally there was 12 or 15 vans parked next door. And my first thought was, how can that many people fit in that house for meeting? So that was just kind of
They're
one of
not
my
6 feet apart though.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, that's true, that's true.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely relay all this information to the general manager. Definitely our purpose with this is not have permanent people out there. Yes, we do have meetings that have multiple people for sure, but our purpose is not have them permanently.
So I think too, if you think about the residents in the neighborhood, you have all this traffic in and out, you're having to go around, you have a bunch of vans and trucks backing in and out. So looking from a resident's point of view, pulling in a lot, your street's consistently dirty. So there's some things we have to consider, I think, when we look at this. I mean, just the volume of cars and traffic.
Yeah, something that we know that we have to make some rules about is trying to not have anybody parking in the streets. If there's somebody parking in the streets, somebody's gonna go out and address that as well. So, and again, we're willing to follow any rules that you guys want to, be with that.
Paul gives them those.
One other thing, also, they'll have to be in occupancy codes, so they won't be able to set up occupancy to code specific states, how to figure that number, and once they meet that cap percentage for that occupancy load, those buildings will have to meet that. They can't move per the code. Now, enforcing it, how that would change. Right.
So are these workers working within that subdivision or the surrounding?
That's where the Norwest Arkansas market. Yeah, in around.
We've got some nice new strip malls coming up. We could use some office space.
All right, let's get back to, we're discussing lot 69. I think there still is a question about parking in regards to that lot 70.
When they are building in subdivisions, they do park on adjacent lots. I mean, the main thing is making sure that they keep the tracking down, that it has gravel, and that would be, watching that.
It's 3 lots off of the entry onto Highway 72. It's right there.
I think, like you said, the main concern is the traffic. There are a lot of vehicles in there. I had gone once, and then, of course, when they were leaving, they all left. Then it was back to normal. It's busy.
So when does the conditional use actually end on the model homes? Maybe that's really confusing.
7/3 of 2023.
7/3 of 23.
Yeah.
Any other discussions from the commissioners?
I think we've identified the other lots that are affected. Does that mean that people reduce it?
But
Or does it come back again for, not only, if we choose to approve this, then we'll have to come back for another.
Well, but I've heard they can park anywhere. I mean, I heard
Well, that's
they can
true.
park in
Well, that's true. There you go.
but in my opinion, it's a parking lot. And it's treated as a true parking lot. It's not like we're just pulling in a lot. It's not like they're just pulling in a lot that hasn't been approved. I mean, they literally have paved this thing, or not paved it, put a gravel surface down.
Well, it's a parking lot to facilitate the conditional use of an office that would.
Correct.
Could be approved as well.
Correct.
So what's the alternative? Because it seems like we need, right? So I would rather have a line without doing those back to those streets. Instead of.
Would you prefer it be included? Lot 70 is included with it.
So we can't do it tonight, though, if we do that.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, if we approve this one, and then they come back to lot 70.
They don't have parking. We approve this
Well,
development.
there's a hard surface across the street.
But it's allocated for the model homes.
But if they're only there at 8 o'clock in the morning, I don't even know what the model homes, I don't know.
So model homes opens at 10 a.m. I believe. We get some staff coming at 9 as well. So definitely some people from over there park on the model homes parking spot. Something else that the general manager is related to me is we are changing our ERP systems. So we've been having more meetings than normal lately. The new ERP system will go live January 10th. Yeah, 16th. And after that, we should see the volume of meetings going down for sure as well. Just want to say that real quick.
Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? Staff? If not, I will entertain a motion for the conditional use 2113
you included, you know, if you asked them to revise that and you included lot 70, at least you could get some public notice back out there so that the neighbors would have an opportunity to have some input. So it's already happening.
Yeah, I mean, if we.
Did we have any input for this?
No,
Nothing.
Something else just for the record, the POA, for that neighborhood, we have met with them, and we have to make sure that they don't have any concerns on it. I don't want to speak for them, but definitely we're willing to put lot 70, you know, out there and come back as well, if you guys want to recommend that as well. So just want to share that with you.
And with the conditional use, if they violate conditional use, then we could get it approved.
If there's a
I mean,
complaint.
if we approve it, and then it doesn't work out, we get complaints, then we so that's another option we have also.
Yeah, I know one of the statements in the facts says that to not use lot 70 for parking.
Yes. It should be the driveway or garage of lot 69. I said I had an error. Should be lot 69 or parking in the lot across the street on 79 that's already a parking space.
But not 70.
But not 70. Or road.
They want to park in 70, right?
Yeah,
You want to park in 70?
We want to make sure that we don't have any trucks on the streets, and definitely lots of people help, you know, that risk. We'd rather have them on the gravel surface. And again, we're willing to come back for lot 7 and get that building as well.
Yeah, I think we do that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, I'm ready to.
All right, I make a motion that we approve CU 21-13, sewer metro station at 3670, Macintosh Way for lot 69.
How are we making sure they come back for
Motion,
With-
they come back.
With the requirement that they come back for lot 70 parking also.
I never stopped riding. I knew.
We have a motion and a second. And we'll do a roll call vote.
You betcha. Ben Lewis. Tony Davis.
Yes.
John Sessoms.
Yes.
Yes.
Jerry Harris.
Yes.
Amber Beal.
Yes.
Joey Engel.
Yes.
Jeff Seifert.
No. Thank you. We'll see you for the lot 70, I guess.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so D is eliminated because correct.
Yes.
And so now we're on subdivision 2004, Prairie, phase 1, final plat, Bush and Tycoon Road, 35 lots, 10.64 acres, R3 single family.
My name is Josh Collins with Anderson Engineering. We're representing ECE for this particular project. We've been trying to push this through for a little bit now. We think we're at the progress point where it's at satisfactory to the city for approval of final plat for Easement. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Yep, let me get to the right page here for you guys since Willow Crossing was a no-go. Alright, this is Prairie Brook Phase 1. This is out there at the northeast corner of Bush Road and Tycoon Road. This is for, it's R3 single family, located on 10.64 acres. And it does have 35 proposed lots, all single family, and it is lots 1 through 21 and lots 27 through 41. Pull up the plat for you guys. And adjacent street improvements, half-street improvements to North Tycoon and Bush Road was with their preliminary plat. They have completed all of the adjacent street improvements that were required of them. And draft covenants have been received and are under review by the city attorney. I think I just sent those to you, or you've had them for a bit for the Prairie Brook. And
I read some today, I don't think they were these.
okay. Warranty bonds. Now, since I printed this earlier today, John Wary has approved the drainage and street bonds because they did make a change. So what's printed in your packet may be inaccurate, but it is correct here in the report that I'm trying to get to the amounts. And because they were notified that some things were missing, and that for the internal streets, the pavement course didn't seem like it was high enough for the cost that it would be. But John did say that those were accurate this time around. I still have to hear from Frank on the water and sewer. Of course, he's out on medical leave right now, so I think it's a little bit of a break. But for the internal streets, they kind of broke theirs out, internal and the adjacent streets, which would be Bush and Tycoon. For internal streets, 100% bond for 2 years is $190,137. I want to add some extra zeros for y'all. That's what I get when I try to do it late in the day and in a hurry. The drainage internal, 100% for 2 years is $289,469. Water and sewer, of course, that one is only 50% for 1 year. The total is $409,465, and half of that is $204,732.50, and that's for the water and sewer. Adjacent streets, again, this would fall under the Bush and Tycoon roads. I have to get my road straight. $117,867.60. And drainage, again, this one is 100% for 2 years, $150,876. They do also have performance bonds for the detention basin. I don't recall if John, did you say that those looked okay for the performance bonds? I believe you did email that today, because they do have to have the final grading. Yes, sod and riprap, and that does also include a drainage swale, and that also for $75,740. And there still are some outstanding things in the record drawing, so they are offering a $5,000 cash bond for those record drawings for their completion.
Okay, and you stated that what is here attached to these packets is not correct.
Correct. It's what is on here, because those were printed before I got the new numbers.
So will that be updated in Dropbox, or can you just shoot me just so I get it right in the minutes?
Okay.
Throw them at Laura, she can throw them at me.
Mine isn't correct.
That's the one that I've got up right now. Because I did go through and update the combined one this afternoon before I posted it online.
2 of them remain unchanged.
I'm going to combine final.
Well, there's a final one, and then there's a all right, and for the waiver requests that were approved during the preliminary plat approval, detention pond 4-to-1 slope requirement, trickle channel and detention pond, and storm inlet type. So we do need y'all's approval for the final plat, the covenants, warranty bonds, and performance bonds. And the record drawing bond.
So John, can I ask you a question on that? You have on the record of connection, not And that's what I'm looking at here. I don't know if that's been changed since then, but that's my only hang up on the bond for the the record drawings is that bonding for completed record drawings is one thing, but bonding to make sure that things got installed correctly is the different thing. So that was my question. Are those still outstanding? Yeah, and so like number 20, ground inlets, should reference the inlet type. Anything larger than 24 on the pipe size should require a larger ID than 4 feet. Then you ask them to confirm that was constructed. That's item 20 on your comments. The record drawing comments from, that's 11.9, so I would imagine.
We haven't received a resubmittal of the record drawing.
These were comments based on the first submittal of the record drawings.
And you haven't seen anything since?
They haven't responded.
Did anybody confirm the inlet size?
I'm gonna say that I'm not comfortable approving record drawing with all of this info outside. You got a bunch of them. There's like, confirm IDs based on pipe size and storm boxes. Confirm your gutter, what John thinks is your gutter line on the road profiles. Detention basins don't match the asphalt records, something like that.
And these are correct.
Yeah, that haven't been seen since November 9th. And that's just the bond. It's not saying that it can't be approved, contingent on all this being fixed, but that could be an issue.
We have to go in and see addressing.
If it's just cleanup, that's what we're going to do. That's how you do it.
And these were questions based on the record drawings before the site inspections.
Which everyone has been out. Did you guys finally get out there to inspect the site? Okay.
I think it was something that was
I had one for Brookside. I had one for Brookside from you guys today.
So, even though that we haven't completed a record drawing, but we have all the departments going out there and inspecting everything, wouldn't that help the case of that the city departments have kind of like approved what?
Well, these are outstanding comments that you haven't addressed, so until you address them, nobody can approve.
Yeah, you can't.
Again, this isn't gonna, just talking for me, this isn't gonna hold my motion to, if everything else checks out, approve the final plat, but it is gonna hold you up on getting the record drawings done and not being able to bond for it because there's so many outstanding.
Well, we can make a motion where staff can hold the following plat until the motion, right?
Yeah, that's what it would
That's
have.
what I'm saying, if we still have this, we can still ensure the
You just can't bring in a $5,000 check and get a final plat.
Right.
They are.
So you would still want it to go to council, or you want it to be held until it's met before it goes to council?
Everything needs to be addressed before it goes to council.
So you guys would meet one more time before council met, right?
It wouldn't have to come back to us. I would just, my motion would be to approve it contingent on outstanding staff comments. And then once those are done, they can go to council.
Okay, they are dedicating a minimum of 80 feet of right-of-way. No, let's try that again. 35 feet of right-of-way for Tycoon Road because this was accepted prior to the master street plan, the new master street plan being adopted. So it is 35 feet and not the 40. The same is also true with Bush Road. It's 35 and not the 40 because the preliminary was before the new master street plan was adopted. As far as utility easements, 20-foot utility easements are proposed along internal streets with the utility placement guide per the utility placement guide, and then along Bush Road with an additional 5 feet utility easement across the east side of North Tycoon Road, because most of the utilities are all on the opposite side of Tycoon. The adjacent street improvements that were completed were half street improvements from existing pavement edge to 16 feet back of curb, 5 feet green space, and 10-foot trail and drainage improvements on the north side of Bush Road. In Tycoon, it is the same except for a 5-foot sidewalk and drainage improvements on the east side. Drainage, the detention pond is located on the west side of the development, along all 5 phases of the development. The detention pond will remain a sediment basin until all 5 phases of the subdivision are completed. The developer has stated that they will resurvey the detention pond and reestablish grades in order to match the planned volume at the end of the final phase. The applicant is providing a performance bond for the pond for all 5 phases of the project. Remaining site work, they have very little issues out on their site. It was actually in really good shape after previous issues with roads that we had several months ago. Most anything that people had were just small cleanup things for them to do out there. Of course, we have discussed the record documents already, and there are some just minor comments on the actual final plat itself.
Any additional comments or questions from the commission? If there are not, I'll entertain a motion for subdivision 2004, Prairie Road phase 1 final plat. They're putting final plat, evidence, warranty bonds, that's fine.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to approve subdivision 2004, final plat, along with covenants, warranty bonds, performance bonds, and the waivers that were requested along with the preliminary plat. That is contingent upon all outstanding staff comments, whether that's punch list items or record drawing.
Tony, a second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Thank you, guys. Next on the agenda is development 2116, the mid-dental expansion. It's at 1230 Easement Boulevard. It is 29 acres and it's C2. Here.
May I say this has been a very long meeting.
We should have been here last time.
Ah, dang it, I missed the longer one.
We did have fireworks.
Yeah, that was exciting. George became Balloon Associates. I'm here if you have any questions. This is just an expansion to the existing structures that are out there on, well, it's a dental shop, McCord's dental shop that he's expanding and kind of moving into the new structure. CEI had done some work on this before. We've actually tried to match a lot of their designs on this and just make sure that we kind of met the overall intent of what the large scale was presented as. So, if you guys have any questions, I am here and available.
How do you spell your last name?
That's right. Now, D as in David, U-Q-U-E-S-N-E. And my first name is actually George, but the Spanish version.
Huh? That helps.
All right. Donna?
All right, so the original Mid Dental was approved in 2015. Construction was completed in April 2016. This is proposing to expand that with just shy of 4,300 square foot structure, parking, dumpster, and landscaping, with some street improvements along Brighton Road. So before you tonight, we are needing PC approval for plans, including landscaping, site lighting, and adjacent street improvement. The zoning is highway commercial. The proposed use is consistent with that. We're anticipating some retail, potentially some more medical services, that sort of thing. No improvements are proposed for the existing RDOT driveway or East Centerton Boulevard. It is currently built out to the full master street plan, and the sidewalk is built out. The Brighton Road is also, the full right of way is dedicated, but there is going to be sidewalk built out. There are going to be street trees planted along both roads. The design is proposing vehicle access off Brighton Road and the existing site entry off East Centerton Boulevard. There's also a shared access with the adjacent property to the west. For our Centerton code, there is retail, office and restaurants, one stall for every 200 square feet. Including the existing structure, the new building will be about 9,300 square feet. There will be about 46 total stalls, including 2 ADA, which would, there are 51 total stalls being proposed, which meets the code requirements. I have had some discussions about how the parking is going to be managed during the construction. They're thinking there's going to install some barriers to prevent people from just driving into the construction areas. So we'll manage that and observe that while construction is happening. There are existing taps onto the property, so they'll be able to connect to those. The drainage report has been approved by the engineer. We have received a lighting plan, which is recommended for approval. You're seeing the landscaping plan here. There is also some existing lighting to the east, which isn't being shown. But this includes parking trees, some evergreen shrubs, and some additional grass. And they are maintaining the existing vegetation. There is also an existing privacy fence along the north side, which will separate the commercial property from the residences to the north. So generally, we find the plans in conformance with city code. This was submitted prior to the residential compatibility standards being passed, but they've tried to meet them as much as they're able to, considering space is pretty limited on the north side. But generally, we don't have very many comments left, so it's in pretty good shape.
Comments or questions from any of the commissioners?
We're at 2, George.
No, Joe.
2. Okay. You want to vote? I mean, we can vote. Man, they're pretty easy. 1, you have a parking stall at the very top with a half-foot radius on it. That's going to get totally demolished.
Which one are we talking about?
So adjacent to the building.
Oh, that one there?
But can we make you're over on parking. Can we make it an island?
Yeah, we can make
and
that.
Put a decent radius on it.
They were trying to get as much parking as they could.
I understand.
I think they're short on parking, and that's why we did that, but I don't mind making it.
I think that's going to be an issue long term.
It's going to get run over.
Just around it.
Sure.
And then the other thing is, can we add a tree in that island that you created?
Oh, so you want an island and a tree?
Yeah, and then more trees.
What's an island without a tree?
Even out the street trees on the west side of the drive. So like the existing drive.
There's landscaping over on that
There
side.
is some existing landscaping there.
Yeah.
Not along the parking, like he has proposed.
You mean on the east side of the drive?
No, on the west side. There's nothing right there.
No, that's all existing. That was developed with the original.
I understand. It's still the same property.
Right, but I'm saying there's landscaping, we're just not showing it.
Oh, you're not showing.
Right.
Then just the island and one tree. That is a good answer.
He was ready.
I'm gonna check
He
it
was
out.
ready
I'm
for
gonna check it.
I'll tell you what, if there is not.
You do show one tree, so that's why I'm kind of a little concerned about that answer.
I will say this, if there is no landscaping in that island, I am happy to add trees if we need to. So you just let us know and we'll make the modifications as needed, or if staff require.
I think some of the landscaping along the frontage died,
Well, that,
along that, see.
Just add some more trees.
All right, anything else from any of the commissioners?
We probably made Hannah or Trent.
I'm going to hope that there's enough parking there, because already with mid-dental, I had to park over bodybuilding service.
It's really Nathan Sullivan.
And to go to physical therapy.
Friday night.
Park over in the dirt.
Is even there?
It's great.
oh, they were
Well,
super
we're good
excited
about
when we figured out all the parking spaces behind the buildings.
Or you have to park over in front of the subway and everything, right?
Tacos and beer.
Yeah.
That doesn't have a
That's the only other place to park.
Not what I was saying.
It's overflow.
There is overflow over there. We talked about overflow.
But Nathan's liquor has what he needs.
Okay.
Just the liquor store.
I mean, we're over the requirement.
All right. There are no other comments or questions. I will entertain a motion for the incidental expansion at 1231.
I'll make a motion to approve, 2116 Dental expansion.
Motion and a very quiet second from Amber. Is
He was
anyone
just
opposed?
right.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, George. Yes, it is getting a little bit late.
You were very patient.
Last and least.
All right, next on the agenda is development 2115, the Rose Centerton Strip Center, the southwest corner of Highway 102 and Cedar Street. Unit is just over 2.16 acres.
Seems like 2 days ago we heard from you. Doesn't it?
Was close.
Was you at the beginning?
He was.
Yep, we got a variance approved.
They were not very nice to you tonight, were they?
Nope. That's okay. As you said, it's about a 12,000 square foot strip center proposed and about a 1,000 square foot QSR. We've worked with DOT, and I believe one you've seen before, the drive was shifted a little more to the west. Since then, we've shifted it more to the east to avoid a curb inlet, which I believe you've seen that. We've also, I think we've worked through, or looked through pretty much all of planning comments, and we're good with pretty much all of them. We saw the ordinance 12.0809 coming, so we provided some street trees for you all.
You're in LA, Shy. Come on, man.
So this is the current plan you're looking at is phase one. Obviously, we've talked about some of the parking on the east side as well as the dumpster. Phase two, it is currently planned to demolish that side of that and continue with the building. So just parking on that side. We'll line up the drives for fire as well as for general circulation. So with that, I'll address any comments.
It's
Yeah.
dark through here. I mean, just the, at least in the driveways, the entrances, so that you can see.
I think that's what comment I made at one point in time. Sure, why not? Of course, you guys already heard their variance request when this evening started, and I had a coffee connection fit. They are proposing to develop approximately a 12,000 square foot commercial strip center and approximately, give or take a couple hundred feet, 1,000 square foot drive-through only restaurant located on Highway 102 and Cedar Street. And it's located on 2.16 acres. You guys did approve their variance for the reduction in parking from 66 to 56 parking spaces. And this evening, for your approval would be the landscaping and site lighting plans. and of course the overall development plans. This is located in a C2 zoning district. The transportation, it is located on Highway 102, which is a major arterial and does have existing improvements in place along with a 5-foot sidewalk. So no improvements are proposed for the existing RDOT road. Right of way, again, no right of way is being proposed in the development because there is already, the right of way has already been acquired by the highway department. Site circulation, the design proposes a new vehicle access off East Centerton Boulevard on the east side of the property, and a connection to the existing access off the west side, which is on the Mercy Northwest doctor's office. You guys will need to get an RDOT permit to, of course, do a curb cut in their highway, in their roadway. We already went over the parking requirements, so I'm not gonna go back over that. Utilities, there is an 8-foot sewer main extension that has been added to the proposed development. And you guys, they will need to get an off-site easement for that off-site sewer because it is quite a ways to the south of the property. Of course, they were hoping, Frank would like them to work with the folks to their south, which was the Willow Crossing, but of course they're not developing at the same speed. These folks are ready to get on the go, and Willow Crossing, they still need some work. So you will need to acquire all the easements prior to the development. The applicant has provided a drainage report for staff review. The proposed development includes a detention pond along the southern property line. Go back to the, oopsie. You choose the right one, and it's none of them that I'm choosing. When there is a detention pond down along this southern side, and I can't hide it. And the large portion of the runoff leaving the site will flow onto the on-site detention pond and be released into the existing ditch just south of the proposed development. John does request that the drainage be discussed with the folks developing to the south because they will be dumping into that area. And of course, as Willow Crossing has discussed earlier, there is a lot of water going across that property. But
This goes to the east.
to the east.
It goes to the east, yeah. I think the plan right
I don't like why.
I can't see it.
No, that's just showing the landscaping.
I have one if you would like to discuss it.
It's next sheet.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Hang on. All right, it's not in the packet. Is it? Okay, well, it was in the one that was printed, but it's not in the presentation. Just a minute. Hang on.
It's being allowed to go back. The twin pipes that are coming
VPN.
underneath the highway, they usually bring straight south.
Well, I'm trying, but I don't know if it's going to make sense to do it. Well, I have the VPN in because I'm attached to that.
Your internet.
Okay.
Sorry, John.
Oh, I didn't
No, I don't think it killed the Zoom. No. I think so.
John?
John, you still there?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
at least 3 more hours.
So Sean, while we're waiting, access easements, whole property, can it be split? You show, or someone shows, some show access easement on the north and the south. North, I guess, could work if you go over the parking and provide more on the north side. You gotta get over your channel.
Yes, that'll be all before the pipes. Later, not.
Right, later, that's what I'm saying, currently.
Yes. Yeah, so this would be in anticipation of phase 2 as well.
Yeah.
And no, it's not planned, so this would be to allow people to go to the.
The other thing, you got trees in the front of the right.
Yes. There's a part for that. We have to use. They've allowed it adjacent to these. So they allow these trees to sit.
What kind of space are you running this in?
It's about 50. I don't really see it. Actually,
Can we just add some questions on it? Just whatever. 4 trees is great.
Some western side, is that what you said?
Yeah, can we add something on the western side? It's a shared drive, right?
No, the DOT right away? Oh.
You got some islands there.
Potentially, we've got some utilities.
Yeah, it's just gas line. It's gas line and a private service, you're fine.
Are we considering those street trees that we're adding? Is that what you're saying?
We have 4 trees on this side. You know what's required elsewhere.
I do know what's required.
Yes. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm just asking you to spruce it up a little bit.
And I think we've noticed as we drive along 102, we kind of, we can see we've asked for some more, and it really, I won't mention any names, but it's so much. I'm not saying it, but there may have been a show tonight outside.
This is your last one.
It is my last one. I want to keep it clean. I want to make it through my last one. But no, it just makes a big difference, I think, in the presentation as we go down there. I appreciate your fight.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thank you.
Your last meeting.
And Joey, the first landscaping was not a tree to be down, just grass.
Oh, I would imagine that. Now we got 4. So
I was like,
we're on the right track.
Yes. As far as the detention goes, along with these other properties,
That's fine.
really great on the grading on the neighborhood side, which is really close. And I'm just good to that.
So,
in addition to that, the housing structure is just on the back of the property. Go across the property. Now they have to grade a ditch along your south property to carry that water, which is very intentional. I'm just curious how the outfall structure works.
I'm not 100% sure how that works with their development. I think that at this point we're further along than they are with permitting and development. And so I don't know that there's a whole lot we can do with that unless we plan on
activities and plans on that property.
that would require a temporary construction, for sure. Which, they could require that we not.
Might require more than that, right?
And that's the only reason I brought that up when I first reviewed this. But this, the type of this stuff and neighbor's property, the grading that's going to be required on the property, they've got all that.
Sure.
That may or may not.
Right, and so that's the chicken and the egg thing. I don't know. The water's going there currently. And yes, we can adjust that pipe to where, it outfalls right after the property. So we can adjust that definitely to where it's not on there. And last resort, we could build a wall there for detention. Other than that, I don't know how much we can plan on this development. It's just like the sewer line. We would love, listen, we would love to connect to the sewer main if they construct, they would say, listen, about a month. But at this point, I don't know how much we can rely on that stuff, and the grading is just another one of those things.
Now, John Easterling did say that he had spoken with Jason for that adjacent property. So is that not inaccurate?
No, I'm not saying that's not true. At all. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that to your question of us grading on the adjacent property, that is gonna have to get to
permission because we redesigned the detention drop hole and
potentially.
everything.
I'm sure that an agreement can be made with us and the property itself. They were sort of planning the same thing. If we can reach an agreement on how this works out and how we can kind of combine these, that'd be great, for sure. And I think, as you said, John's will mention it.
And this is all a drainage easement, an existing drainage easement. Public.
So Shah, I think you have to coordinate with them, match your designs up, or
Why is that?
you typically allow the area people's properties.
With the temporary grading. You're saying if they don't agree to
Yeah,
the
that's
temporary
okay.
grading. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying right now that was. Sure, absolutely. And that's a risk that we take, as well as the sewer main. Quite honest.
So y'all are fronting that whole deal, bringing it up?
The sewer main, yes.
Well, I mean, they have a rule to that, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of where we're left. When we discuss, again, we'd love to connect to the sewer main they construct, that'd be great. But at this point, we can't rely on that. And I think tonight was.
John, would you require that, it's in a drainage easement, right? Correct. The grading, or offsite grading? I was gonna ask if you were gonna require, Shah's just mentioned a temporary grading easement.
I guess my recommendation is commissioners approve the budget as it is, that's fine. I think the determination is
Yeah, and I was gonna ask if you were gonna require or recommend a permanent easement. But it looks like we're already covered, I wanna make sure you're good with how this is.
There is a permanent drainage easement.
Any other? John, is it your recommendation to adjust that pipe fully away from the property line a little more? Or is that? Okay, yeah, sure.
I think originally the code was straight side.
Yes. That's correct. And
To your point, if the pond discharge is for east, is for discharge. And it'll go into the storage system. Little crossing proposing on there.
And eventually, all of that pipe drainage coming underneath the highway is going to have to be put in pipes and ground. As well as this, I mean, our detention pond's going to have to expand as the project takes to yeah, 38 by.
Oh, they're 38 by 60.
Yeah, they're quite large.
It's a big
Quite large
hole.
boxes.
And a big hole.
Also, I still need to look at updating your site plan for your photometric. We've had this issue from with some other developments where they don't like that. And so we have street lights. Could you do
So on the
You don't
site
show
plan.
On the site plan.
Correct, yes, we don't, yeah,
So
okay.
then,
I
and
understand.
they're using that site plan to go off of.
So you're
We
wanting,
end up in the same place.
so you're wanting all of the light poles from the convention plan on our site? Okay.
And then like that one that is being, moved, so it,
Sure. Questions?
We know the material for the brick.
I think the ones that he's done previously are wood.
The doors of enclosure.
The doors. The enclosures were to match. I can't recall 100%. I can find that out for you.
Just before there be anything other than wood.
So, okay, just for longevity.
Especially with, if that's gonna be a restaurant with grease and hotel.
Okay, so is that a requirement? You're saying that's a requirement? Okay.
we're asking.
I'll have to, well, I know I can't double check on that. I'll make a note of that.
Joey might give you a tree back.
Joey hasn't gotten a tree yet.
Joey hasn't voted yet.
You may not even make it to a motion, it's getting kinda late.
All now or nothing.
Yeah. So how many trees did you want, Joey? You said two?
Throw out a number.
You said two.
44.
You said
12.
You said two, I think, is what I heard.
No. I think you're gonna be real tight getting it. I'm just asking you to do
Anything else for center trips? If there are not, then I would make a motion for that. Let go.
Make a motion to approve development 21-15 Rose Center Construction.
Second.
Motion and a second, is anyone opposed? Thank you. All right, other business. 2022 planning calendar, December meetings discussion.
Yes. We would like to, we'll look on the calendar, but the last, we would like to knock out the last meeting in December and the first meeting in January. We have a terrible time this time of year. If anyone takes off during the week before Christmas, or if they're off, I mean, we've got to come back and be ready on the 4th for another meeting.
What's that do to everything piles up?
Yeah, that's why we, can we do a modified? Can we do something modified maybe? That wouldn't require much?
Limited to certain types of
I
items.
just throwing it out, I don't know if it works or
Well,
not.
it's still just having everyone here where you can't take off during holidays. We just have to keep going.
Oh, you're saying planning staff can't take off because of the meeting?
Yeah, we're like, the 2 meetings and they're just back to back, right before Christmas and right after New Year's. So it really puts a pressure on us. Plus, all the developers try to cram everything in at the end of the year. Like Silent Springs, they don't hold any meetings in December. That's their time to get things finished before the year and catch up. I talked to people and they said, you know, well, we can like to move. They said, you know, could we just move at the last meeting in January up and then run it. So, he said, we'll just make them do that.
What about getting rid of the last meeting in December? I agree, there's not a lot of cities that do that. As far as the first one in January, what about just filling that up as they come in? Because you should, that would, if we got rid of the one in December, that would start filling up that first January one a lot sooner, right? And then just getting that set.
Well, let's do an earlier, you
Have
could do
it
an earlier
set, but you
deadline.
still have those 2 weeks where you're trying to get everything
Could you adjust-
finished up, all the reports done.
Could you adjust the deadlines like Jeff said to alleviate that concern? Like everything has to be in and done by December, middle of December?
Right, you're rolling up strong.
Well, he said as long as he can plan for it.
There's still just a lot of things to do as far as posting and things like getting the package out and all of that.
It doesn't bother me, I'm just worried about what it does to. No, everybody, well, yeah, I mean, the other meetings that we have after that, 2 that are off, that's gonna just pile everything up. You know,
Well, we have developments that we have just slid and slid and slid for 3 months. I mean.
We're gonna keep, I mean, that's gonna keep, potentially happening, although, I mean, I know you know. I hate to eliminate 2.
What about eliminating December, and because that's probably the least, and move, like maybe 11 to the following week.
council, like you were saying.
It doesn't have to be on Tuesday, then we'll meet on Tuesday.
Causes some other issues, I mean.
Availability of the road, that may not be an issue, which would be
When do we move?
next month, hopefully.
I got a street question, where I wrote down.
Save your home link.
Thank you, John.
Pay it by
I mean, technically, all we have to decide on is the last one in December today, right? And then we can, because the other one falls into 23, so really we just have
We
to
have a lot of
decide.
time to do that. Yeah, I mean, we put it on.
It extends past
on the
December,
calendar.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't have to do that, I mean, I did that.
It's something like it's
We can put a TBD, I mean, on that calendar, we can put a TBD
On the January.
on the January for 2023.
On the first one?
Yeah.
Alright.
Let's do that.
Just cancel the last one, we'll do a TBD on that first one.
Diane, go ahead and schedule your Christmas off next year, right?
It's not me.
A lot of times someone will take the week before Christmas and then some, you know, some, then people take the week after.
You're obviously going to have some impact potentially on some developers, but also somewhat of a, I mean, you guys.
Taking half a day off tomorrow.
Yeah, we've been
We have
very open
stacked.
we've been very open with a lot of them.
Yep.
So, alright, so,
Yep, I think that's a great
the
idea.
next take review is 1/6. Our next planning commission meeting is 1/4. There's a council meeting on 1/11. But I don't want to leave tonight without us thanking Todd for his hard work and his support.
Miss you, Todd.
Hey, it has been awesome. I mean, what an honor to hang out with you guys. I've learned a bunch. And I'll still probably be sneaking in and peeking a little bit. But thank you. I appreciate the amazing hard work from the staff, from you guys, you know, from a council position as the clerk. You know, I didn't understand that much 4 years ago, but a lot of respect for the work that you guys put in. There's a lot of details. I really appreciate it.
It's really helped having you in this position for the benefit of the council and explaining some things that go on here. That's really contributed a lot.
Thanks.
Still on council?
Mhm.
Alright, we're just getting your Tuesday night.
I'm still your neighbor.
Alright, I'll see you.
Have you told your wife?
Yeah.
She might Anything else with that? Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, all that good stuff. We'll see you on next year.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
And I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.